Good evening. Good evening, Jigo. Thank you for having us. Of course, I want to thank Mayor Anthony Sanchez for being so gracious and allowing us to use this venue for this community caucus. I'm Senator Chris Barnett, and this community caucus meeting for the Committee on Education, Public Safety, and the Arts is hereby called to order on Tuesday, January 30th, 6:21 Chamorro Standard Time. The purpose of the community caucus, it's exactly like it sounds. We want to go out into the community and hear your concerns and hopefully take back your concerns, comments, complaints, who knows, maybe even compliments back to the Guam legislature and work on these concerns and issues, hopefully through legislation or through oversight. And so if you plan on providing testimony to the committee, and I use the term committee loosely because it is just me here tonight so far, I know that there are several events to include the one-year anniversary for the late Senator Piro Terlahi also happening tonight. So I'm not sure if any of my colleagues from the committee will make it to it, but the hearing is being streamed on the Guam Legislature's YouTube channel. And so, again, if you have signed up to provide testimony, we'll start with Mr. Pedro Blas and also Mr. Angelo Andres. And I think this is Laura Angoko. Okay. So if you guys want to come up, and how it works is we'll just have you sit here at the table and then just state your name for the record. Okay. All right. So, yeah, there's a lot of names on the sign-in sheet, so I don't know who wants to come up and provide a testimony, so I'll just go down the line. Francis Solis? Galvin Escalona? I just want to also note for the record, I was also in receipt of plenty testimony from students of John F. Kennedy High School. And also I did receive some testimony via email. These were letters that were written by students of John F. Kennedy and also students of Sanchez, who unfortunately, because of the double sessions, are almost one and the same now. And so, ma'am, Mrs. Salas?
Hafaday, good evening. My name is Francis Salas. I'm the Vice President for the John F. Kennedy PTSA.
Good evening, ma'am.
And Hafaday, Senator, my name is Angelo Andres. I am a teacher, parent of an incoming JFK student, and a proud JFK alumni.
Thank you. Okay, so Ms. Salas, did you have testimony that you wanted to provide?
I'd like to, one of our questions that we had brought up during our PTSA meeting was the permits, the sanitation permits for the schools, especially John F. Kennedy. For each venue for the food items to be sold, it's $300. So if we have 3 locations at John F. Kennedy, that's almost close to $900. And that's a lot of money for the school to put out for the kids to help fundraise for whatever events that they're doing. Is there something that can be done? I mean, it could be like a straight flat fee of $400 for the selling at the campus.
I want to this time recognize Ms. Maria Gutierrez, who is a board member of the Guam Education Board. I know, Mrs. Salas, that these concerns were raised at the board meeting the other day by, I believe, Mrs. Patricia Babauta. And I've actually gotten a few emails about this issue because a lot of times the kids in the schools, like when I went to school, we used to be able to have a bake sale, right? And I don't know if anyone ever got salmonella from the bake sale, but we were able to do this to raise funds. And I understand your concern. And I'm going to ask Ms. Maria Gutierrez if she can weigh in on this because I'm not too familiar with the board policy relative to the bake sales and such. But I do know that the concern was raised and was just like you had said, ma'am. Mrs. Babauta had said if they're planning to fundraise at different parts of the school, we could be looking at, $900. And then the fundraising goes from our kids trying to raise money for events or field trip to our kids trying to raise money just to pay the enormous cost of the sanitary permit.
Thank you, Senator. Buenas noches, Tato Jigo. I used to be a Jigo resident, but I moved a little bit to Dededo in between, but my heart is still here. As you know, my family, my mother, and my siblings all grew up in Jigo. Um, yes, it was brought up last night, and as you all know, that I am not the board member that keeps quiet for 2 hours and earn my stipend. I'm very vocal, and I just came from a meeting with the vendor of the air condition because I was concerned. Yes, it was brought up by Mrs. Babauta last night. I even encouraged her to come to the board meeting. This is ridiculous.
Very.
This is ridiculous when it comes to the students that are racing, are fundraising. It just doesn't make sense because I feel for them even if I see them up there car washing. And so Mr. Peter Ada promised Mrs. Babauta that he's going to get in touch with public health. So I was with him at the air condition vendor meeting with DOE, and he asked me for the number of Mrs. Babauta. So because I think he said he talked to Mr. Peter, the one at public health now, the new director, Peter John, okay. But my position on the board is we do have a policy, but it does not say that they have to be charged. But this is, I understand, it's a sanitation permit, which is very unfair because there are people out there that are selling, and I don't think they have sanitation permit, and they're making fundraising. But when it comes to the students, I am very sensitive because over the Christmas break, I was at the mall, and I saw the kids, they have their gift wrapping. And you know, I look at them the way they were working hard, and sometimes people that want to wrap, they're very sensitive.
Test, here.
So as I walk around, you know, I see the kids. And I went to their counter and I said, okay, what school is this? Oh, this is Ukudu. The next is, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see the kids that they're struggling to get for their class of 2024 or whatever, right? Travel. So I happened to receive my board stipend. So I went around and patti. And they asked me, Ma'am, you have something to wrap? I said, no, this is your donation. Like, oh my God, you're that Mrs. G, right? I said, yeah. I said, thank you. For me, it's for the kids. And when they charge the students, this is unacceptable, Senator. You need to look into this because you guys don't make the law. But honestly, I share Mrs. Solis, your concern, because even the other students, it's happening. So I will get in touch with Mr. Ada tonight and ask him, or give me your number so Ms. Peter John can give you a call and let it be known, because it's ridiculous. But Ms. Babauta came because of that too. She was trying to raise funds at Marcel Sablon, Bexel and everything to buy things for the students. And that's what upset me last night, that the parents have to buy sports equipment, volleyball, so that their kids can have something to play with, when the OEE should provide that. And this is coming from me as a one board member, and I will continue to fight for that. But that we shouldn't be asking parents or the students to raise money because they want something. It should be provided by the Department of Education. Some schools are having, Senator, coin drive.
Yes.
Because they build their skylight, fix their skylight
Synagogues
canopy.
in elementary they have a coin drive. Mrs. G, are you able to comment at all on the? I had read something in the
Yes.
board policy about the no
Okay,
compete
the board
with
policy,
the food vendor.
The board policy 750. The schools are allowed. If you're elementary, you can have 5 fundraising. There's no charge. It's up to you what you're going to charge. The school doesn't charge. For middle school, 10. For high school, 15. And we amended that policy because before you cannot have fundraising. We cannot. But thanks to Simon Sanchez, student leaders who fought hard to have that in that board policy. The board policy doesn't charge anything. It's really at the school level. And I know the principal of Simon Sanchez will know. So all it is, if you're high school, you have 15 in the school year to make a fundraising. But the charging is not, they shouldn't be charged. The school should even charge you. But we know that this has to do with the sanitation permit. So I do not support this. And please, I will get your number so I can have Mr. Ada contact you or I'll give it to Mr. Peter John. But yeah, so it's ridiculous. And because there's nothing in the board policy said that that they have to charge the students. We have student leadership seminar where we invite the student club to come and sell. We didn't have to have a permit. If any of you know the Island Board of Governing Students that I oversee, every conference we invite, I don't want outside vendor. I want the student club to come and sell, provided they're not over $20, and they have to make money. So, Mrs. Sellers, thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Mrs. G. I'd also like to recognize my colleague, Senator Tello Taidagui. Thanks for joining us, Senator. Ms. Salas, could you just take us back to the beginning so I could just get all the information about your situation so I could take it up with public health?
This is in reference to selling on school campus. So an example, if we have 3 locations or 4 locations, and each charges $300 each, that's a lot of money for the school and students to help provide that. I know last year there was an offering for the students to take their health certificates. So the students do have coverage as far as sanitation that I know of at JFK. I'm not too sure this year because I'm not my son had graduated 2023, but I'm still active with the PTSA.
Thank you, ma'am. And I've noted all your information. I'll follow up with Public Health, and Mrs. Gutierrez as well will follow up with GDOE. Mr. Andres, did you have anything further to add on this subject?
Yes, Senator. So, I'm really glad that Ms. Gutierrez is here because, when she was a parent from over her kids at JFK, she was very vocal, and that's kind of an inspiration also too for me to get involved because really the voices for our kids are going to also have to come from us, right? So it's ridiculous, Senator. I know the fee already is ridiculous because they're charging $300 per site, right? And like what Ms. Salas said, at JFK we had to pay $600 because we have 2 different sites, right? The football field and the courtyard. Now, it's not only the site or the fees that we're kind of concerned about, it's also the regulations because, having warmers, we need to have warmers. We need to have a washing station. We need to have, platforms on the courtyard, So these are additional regulations that, if we just want to have a fundraiser in an hour amount of time, where the food is coming in from the vendors, and from the vendors it's going straight out to the students. I mean, we're hoping that everything's okay, right? And on top of that, if these regulations are going to be implemented across the board, meaning that it's not only going to be in high school but in elementary and middle school. Now you're looking at the elementary students, and middle school students who are also participating in these fundraising efforts. They would have to abide by these regulations, right? So it kind of has taken us aback because, for so long we've been doing it. And we've been doing it safely because, there are certain guidelines still that we need to abide by.
I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but when you say you've been doing it for so long, so this whole thing with the $300 health certificate and the permit?
So meaning that we haven't paid the fee. We haven't been required to do the hand wash station, the warmers.
So that is just this school year?
It's just this school year, and we do abide by the NAF regulations, where we would have to provide the health certificate of the vendor, the business license for the vendor. Students or faculty who are handling food has to have health certificates. But all these additional requirements, that's what's taking us aback. And on top of that, the enforcement, right, and also the guidelines. Different schools are interpreting it a different way. And we've already heard and we've seen pictures of other schools, right, conducting the sales, right, and knowing that they don't have the permit or they're not doing enough following the regulations. So we just kind of want clarification as far as, are those regulations that were provided to us, is this something that, is really a regulation that is fit for a school setting, or is this something that, we're looking at a private institution, right, like these vendors outside, and are we just using that as a blanket guideline for the schools, right? So it's just about clarification and enforcement as well, because it doesn't seem right. The kids see it, the kids hear it, they see it in their pictures that other schools are doing it, and now it's like, I know at JFK, we want to make sure that we do things right, we follow the rules and all that stuff, but it really is not fair for the school. So as far as guidelines, hopefully the guidelines are communicated to the rest of the principals so that it can be enforced consistently across the board. And then also too, if we can get some policy guidance from the board or even law change from the senators to address the issues of the fees, and also probably figure out a specific guideline for schools and not just use guidelines that it seems like it's the guidelines for everybody, all businesses,
Yeah. It is, and that's, I know that there was a bill relative to kind of like what we call home kitchens, for example. In some places, they do a buyer beware, where it's like, hey, this food that we're selling you wasn't prepared in a kitchen that was approved by a public health authority. But it does kind of sound like across the board they're applying the same standard that they would apply to a restaurant to elementary, middle, and high school students. And that I think is the problem. I think that also when we went out and said that we wanted to establish the health and safety standards for the schools, I don't know if DPHSS is maybe applying that heavy-handedly in this situation. I'm not sure, but now that I have all the info, we'll be sure to take it up with public health and GDU. I don't know if there's a quick fix onto this, but I'm just curious. So when you pay, $300, $600, $900 for your permits, I know it's an obvious question, but how does that impact the fundraising efforts when you've got to take that much off the top?
That's from the student funds.
Yeah.
That comes straight from the students' efforts.
Right. Yeah.
Not from,
So,
not from the government. That
Right.
comes from the students.
thank you, Mr. Andres. Did you have
So,
other
yes,
concerns?
yes.
Okay.
So
okay.
actually,
Can I just defer to my colleagues
Sure,
if they had any
sure.
questions about this specifically, or comments, Senator Tydewey? No? Okay. And also like to recognize Senator Joanne Brown. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, proceed.
So my initial intent to be here, Senator, and again, I thank you also for having this forum, because we really need this, right? It's part of our right, I guess, and our civic duty to be participate, in our government, and having these sessions allow us to do that. One of the things that has kind of taken me aback is that, I know in the very beginning of the school year, there's this whole push to get our schools ready, right? And, everyone was scrambling, everyone was all together. I mean, I know there was kind of some disagreement, between, your office and also the governor, but again, it happened, and we actually made it through, right? And there's some progress. But since then, I mean, there has been no feedback or even communication to the stakeholders in our schools. And I'm talking in particular with, I guess with JFK, because, I teach at JFK. I have an incoming child, or a child who's incoming next year as a freshman. And, I know I've spoken to the principal. I've spoken to many different other teachers from other schools, and there's all these rumors that are flying around as far as what's going to happen for next school year. And we love Sanchez, I have a lot of friends who teach at Sanchez. We know the plight of Sanchez because we were once in that situation at JFK. So opening up our home, to Sanchez, I mean, that was a no-brainer. But now the question becomes, for how long, right? So if I can just read what I had prepared here, and then I'll just probably just add on. Alpha Day, good evening, everyone. School year 2024-2025 is just around the corner, and there has been little to no communication to the JFK stakeholders regarding plans on how long Simon Sanchez will be in double session with our school community. There have been a few rumors circulating regarding Simon Sanchez ending double session with JFK for school year 2024-2025. However, nothing has been officially made public. Let me share with you a few of those rumors, and hopefully you can hopefully get the superintendent to shed some light on these possible outcomes. For high school communities, or 4 high school communities will be affected in these scenarios that are kind of spreading and going around. First one, temporarily dissolve Teason High School and have Simon Sanchez utilize the facility until a new Simon Sanchez is built. The Teason students will revert back to their previous school districts prior to the opening of Teason. GW, Ukudu, and JFK would have to absorb the increase in students, and teacher reassignments will take place accordingly. So that's the first rumor that's been circulating. Number 2, the second scenario, Simon Sanchez will double session with JFK until December, when renovations to FB Leon Guerrero is projected to be complete. FB Middle School would move out of Okudu High School, and Simon Sanchez will relocate into Ukudu to continue double session for the rest of school year 2024-2025. And in the third scenario, Simon Sanchez High School will remain at John F. Kennedy High School until the school is rebuilt. Now, it is the last scenario that concerns me and the JFK community. So I just wanted to share a story, and I think a lot of you who are sitting up there, and also Ms. Gutierrez, have been or know about it. When JFK was shut down in June 9, 2008, the school community had double session with George Washington High School for 1 year. Our education leaders, alongside the legislature and governor, worked diligently to find a solution to end double session, and after school year 2008-2009, that's 1 year, found the solution to have the JFK community use the current Teason High School as a temporary campus. So it was interesting because I was doing some research and I was looking back on articles. And gosh, within that month period when the school shut down in June, all the way to December, there was articles, there were news releases, there was just communication about what our leaders were doing to actually try to, help fix the situation. Now, they actually found Teason High School, and I was also doing some research, and they were even thinking about the old Ben Franklin as an option. They were also looking at using possibly Chief Brody Elementary School, where a lot of teachers invested their time because they knew how important it is to have a school. They invested their time to go there and take measurements and present that to the board, right? So there was actually active, an active push to find a solution, and it was being communicated to the community. We are at the end of January 2024, 4 months to the end of the school year, and the JFK and Simon Sanchez communities still don't know what our fate is for school year 2024-2025. I would like these questions to go on record in hope that the superintendent and the team addressing the JFK Simon Sanchez double session provide answers to our school communities soon. And a lot of times when we don't ask the questions and we don't start the dialogue, oftentimes, when we deal with the government or even our leaders, we're kind of left with what is at that moment, at that short amount of time. So, we don't want to wait until June or July for now discussions to take place and also for, solutions to be provided. Hopefully, these questions can start, the team, whoever team is being assembled to work on this, to start thinking about it if they haven't done so yet, and start communicating with the school communities. First one, how long would JFK double session with Simon Sanchez High School? What factors would determine the length of time Simon Sanchez would double session with JFK? And we hope to have the superintendent or the team provide a timeline on when a decision will be made. Another question, will Teason High School be temporarily dissolved to accommodate the Simon Sanchez High School community until a new Simon Sanchez is built? Another question, if double session continues at JFK, will the current schedule remain? Or will Simon Sanchez get the morning schedule and JFK the afternoon schedule for 2024-2025? And then another one, will current school districts of students who attend JFK, Ukudu, Simon Sanchez, Teason, and JFK change for school year 2024-2025? And if so, when would the stakeholders be notified? So one of the things that I want to just kind of end with, Senator, is I know there's a whole bunch of faculty, staff, even the principal of Simon Sanchez is here, some students, and also parents. I just want to kind of let you know that, the fight for your school shouldn't be over, and that you continue that you continue to push, because it is hard. All right, 3 years. That was the time that me and a whole bunch of the faculty, other faculty, staff, students, alumni, I mean, we pushed, we didn't stop. And I know it's been a long time for you guys, and I really feel bad because, it seems like you guys are getting the short end of the stick here. Either way you go, you're double sessioning, right? And it's very hard because when I had this discussion with my students, it seems like this double session has really gotten to them because for some strange reason they like it. And they think that this is the norm now, because yes, even if we get to school early at 6 o'clock, which is really, it's another, just starting school early in the morning, I mean, that's another issue. But they're thinking school now, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 5 hours, and they were out. Who's not gonna like that? And even more disheartening is that there are actually some teachers too that love the schedule, right? And as a teacher, it's kind of disheartening because you see that, and you see all the programs being compromised. You have the ROTC program. You have Ms. Colette Beaujolais' program also. I mean, she's done wonders for our school. You have our athletics being compromised. You have, and not even speaking about JFK, I have my niece playing soccer for FB, practicing late at night when there's no lights. So I know, Senator, and I really don't envy your position, but I'll tell you, you have a very, very important position because you're dealing with a lot of stuff, hospital included. All right, and I know, hospital and safety, public health, and education is very important. But, just getting answers and some guidance and getting the stakeholders to get involved, having us, just still have that sense of voice, right, and participation. We're not getting it from our educational leaders. And, I would hope that the superintendent and his team, even just kind of get together with some of the schools that are still directly affected by this double session and kind of speak with them and share with their families some kind of plan. Because, by not speaking and not sharing, what the plan is, it seems like we're forgotten. And it's very unfortunate because, we have a lot of good people in our school system that are really being drastically affected by this double session. So just to end, we have the power to determine our destiny as stakeholders of our respective schools. We must hold our leaders accountable for prioritizing education, keeping our school communities safe, and assuring that our students are not shortchanged in their educational experiences. Again, thank you very much, Senator. This is very emotional for me because, um, again, I know how it is to fight, to continue to fight, to be up there, and to have the best interest in mind for our students. Part of the reason why, again, for being here today is I just want to make sure that our efforts at JFK, being able to sacrifice those 3 years, we fought for our school. Right? We did what we needed to do for our school. And we want to make sure that we keep learning, teaching and learning, and that environment that we have as islanders, that we want to make sure we preserve it for years to come. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andres, for your testimony. And these are all questions that I've asked the superintendent. I've asked him about double session with Sanchez and JFK and how long is this going to be. And the answer that I was given in one of the oversight hearings was that the availability of the buildings they have, for example, he said, we can't put Sanchez in an elementary school because it's a high school and there are different things to consider. But what I took away from it, and just to kind of combine it with what you were saying, I remember those conversations when we were closing JFK about alternate locations, right? You mentioned Ben Franklin. I've been on the superintendent's dogging about this. You need to look at, properties outside of the DOE footprint. This is not acceptable. It's not acceptable to have students at JFK waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go ride the bus and, getting out of school 5 hours later. It's not fair to the students at Sanchez who feel like they're outsiders on that campus, right? For whatever reason, it's not fair for the students at Ukadu who have to share campuses, with my son and other students who attend school at FB Leon Guerrero. And that's what I try to impress upon the superintendent, that I don't think the Guam Department of Education leadership truly understands the very real impact that their failure to maintain the schools and their failure to solve these problems that are of their own creation has on our kids. I don't know who at JFK assigned the kids to send letters to the Committee on Education, Public Safety, and the Arts, but thank you, because we did. We got about 20 different letters from the kids, and there's that old saying, from the mouths of babes, right? And these are, these concerns. I'm hearing everything from, you mentioned athletics, so we have students at Sanchez who aren't being allowed to use the facilities at JFK. We have students at JFK who have to leave the campus when Sanchez starts, so they can't work on studies, they can't work on sports. And these are the things I communicated to the superintendent, but again, he's 6 months on the job, and I'm just not sure he really grasps the impact, because we're not just talking about an inconvenience for our students or, the families. We're talking about kids who might not get into the college they want to get into because we're shortchanging them on their education. And so, again, the things you're talking about, the rumors about putting Sanchez over at TGen, I've asked the superintendent, I've asked the GDOE deputy superintendents, and they say, as of now, those are just rumors. But I'm going to tell you why those rumors are circulating. It's because the superintendent himself said in the Guam Congress Hall during one of the oversight hearings that they were looking at consolidating and closing schools. And so once he put that out there, that's all everyone started talking about, right? And so now we have these rumors about, what school's going to close? And I'll tell you, there are now discussions with the Department of Defense that the superintendent is involved with. And while the superintendent has met with me and told me that the plan is to integrate all the students that the DoD schools can't accommodate into our public school system, and key word there is integrate. That's what the superintendent said in the meeting with me, but then I saw the Admiral on the news saying that they're looking to purchase DOE facilities to be used exclusively for Department of Defense education activities. So I think part of the problem here is that they're saying things that are the public, we're all paying attention to the schools. I mean, it's the hottest issue, right? We're hyper focused on these. So when he says things like this, it causes a lot of anxiety and frustration in the education community, as if we needed more of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we're on the superintendent about this. So now I'm hearing that he's going to move forward with the consolidation and closure. And you know what I'm thinking in my head is, if they do move forward with that and we end up combining campuses, it could free up a building for Simon Sanchez, you know, or maybe we need to be creative and break the Simon Sanchez student population, I don't know, into thirds and, you know, put some over here, put some over there, but something's got to give because, I mean, my son, for example, goes to FB Leon Guerrero, right? And there, you know, there's no middle school or high school in the northern, most populated part of our island, and I can't wrap my head around that. So my boy goes over to school at Ukadu. He doesn't go to school till 12. He doesn't get out of school till 6. Yeah. And now, and again, this is another issue I'm trying to follow up on. Now, the kids who attend FB Leon Guerrero are not being allowed to use the facilities at Ukadu. So my boy, too, he goes to baseball practice at 10:30. And he's got to rush home, shower, go to school, where he's there all day, and he's coming home when it's just about dark. So we have a situation on our island, and I know you guys know this, where we have kids coming to school in the dark hours of the early morning, and kids leaving home in the dark at 6:30, 7 o'clock. And I just hate to think that the Department of Education leadership, and this is what it's looking like to me, they're too insulated from these problems. They're not going out to the schools. You know, the superintendent hasn't even been to all the schools. I don't think they're seeing the problems firsthand, and I definitely don't think they're hearing the concerns from the education community. And yeah, it's unacceptable for DOE to have the plan that, you know, Sanchez is just going to double session somewhere until we complete the campus. And when is that going to be? There's a story that was just printed in the media. There's been yet another delay with the beginning of the construction of Simon Sanchez. And now, just for clarification, I oversee education, but the 37 Guam legislature, when we divvied up the committees, we gave Simon Sanchez and the rebuilding of the Simon Sanchez campus to a Simon Sanchez alumni, and Senator Roy Kanata, who I informed him that we're going to be hearing concerns about this issue tonight, and unfortunately wasn't able to be here. But I will take these concerns back to the good senator. But, you know, I'm not saying, hey, it's his problem. I'm just saying that this is, it's a huge problem. And GDOE leadership needs to do more to solve it. You know, not 3 years from now, not 2 years from now, but hopefully before the start of the next school year. And so we're going to be following this process of the closure and the consolidation very closely. And I'm going to be pushing for them to open up some kind of alternative because again, the impact is it's very real in our kids, and it's unfortunate that GDOE leadership is not moving with the urgency that reflects that.
Okay.
Senator Tideaway?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening to everyone that's here. Thank you so much for being here. It brings hope when I see people come to these public hearings, because without your voice, we really have no direction. Many of you are out there who deal with these problems, but people just tend to turn a blind eye or don't want to get involved. So for everyone here today, you're the brave ones that are coming forward, and I greatly appreciate it. The issue that Andre is talking about, I remember Andre way back in the day in the 30th Guam legislature when we were working with JFK. And I believe it was, you know, the teachers and the students that actually finally got that school up and running the way it should be. So it's going to take a village, several villages, to for this issue to resolve itself. But I'm asking you to not give up. Don't give up hope. Continue to reach out to other parents out there that have students or going to school at either JFK or Simon Sanchez to come forward. Because the more that you come forward, you know, the better chances it is. I haven't gone to any of these hearings, as the good senator was kind of shocked seeing me coming, well, one of the community, but when they said it was GIGO, I said, well, I'm definitely going to GIGO. I need to be there and hear what they have to say. Even though this is televised and we can listen to it, I thought being here, my presence here means a lot for this village. because all that you've had to endure from JFK to Simon Sanchez to FPLG, you guys had enough, so we're going to do the best we can to move forward. And again, I thank you, and please, speak out and call others to the forefront so that the other senators will realize this is really a big problem, like Andrea did back in the day. 2007 was it, or 2008?
It was 2010,
10, and then
10, 11, and 12.
12. But it started around 2008, 2009
Yes,
to push.
2009 push, yeah.
That's when the push happened. And like I said, it will take this village and several other villages to push it. So I thank you. I'm listening to everything, and looking forward to the another round table, not a round table, but an oversight with the
Thank you.
Guam DOE.
We're having an oversight Thursday evening at 5:30. 5:30, and there is
Yeah.
an opportunity for public comment, and I will be, the superintendent and all his team is going to be there. If I could just go over the agenda with you guys so you can know, but one of the items on the agenda is shared facilities. So we're going to be talking about that, obviously updating on all the capital improvement projects. We're also going to be discussing the air conditioning vendor. That's Thursday, 5:30 p.m. at the Guam Congress Hall, sir. Of course, I'm going to relay your concerns to the superintendent in the hearing, but if anybody did want to show up for the public comment, that's happening Thursday at 5:30 at the Guam Legislature, at the public hearing room.
And we'll definitely bring up these questions that you have. I mean, being left in the dark is there's no excuse for that. We've got how many more months to go before the next school year? So being left in the dark, I'm gonna really say something.
Yeah, she has a
about
way of
this.
saying stuff.
I totally have a way of saying stuff. I'm not
Yeah.
afraid.
And I agree, sir, the communication, the messaging from the Guam Department of Education, I mean, it leaves much to be desired. And I've told them many times, for example, with the air conditioning contract. Last year, we had the oversight hearing, and the Deputy Superintendent, Joe Sanchez, it was in July, had said that, we're about to sign the contract, we should have air cons, in a certain amount of time. That never happened, and now we're still going through all these issues with the air cons. But, tell the superintendent, if you tell the people of Guam what the issue is, I mean, even if it's bad news, at least they know, which sure beats, being kept in the dark. And, I apologize for that. I'm not the Guam Department of Education, but I do, on my social media, put out all the information as soon as I can get it. And I'm not saying to look towards my social media for information, but I'm just saying that it is out there, and DOE does provide it in these oversight hearing settings. And I'm just, it's unfortunate that they haven't figured out how to get this critical information out to the school stakeholders. So you don't have to do things like show up, to a hearing, which I'm very grateful you did. But you guys should know. You should be the first to know. Principal Mesnayan in the back should be you guys should be the first ones to know about what we're looking at and how long we're anticipating the double sessions.
Yeah. And the Senator, too, if I can just add a few more things, just for the Sanchez community to consider. It actually took about probably close to 3 years, for JFK to be rebuilt. But I think in Sanchez's situation, it's kind of unique. And the only reason why I say that is because, given the situation, right? And this is probably some questions that you could probably ask the Sanchez community, if you can ask the leaders, because now oversight, or not, the purview now is changed from DOE to DPW. Now does the clock start from day one, right? Because I know there's a lot of things that had been accomplished already with the superintendent taking the helm, but now that there's a new, that's under DPW, now does everything that happened under DOE, now does that revert to starting from square one? That's one. Two, another thing also, there was an issue, I don't know, and I'm sure the Sanchez community was disheartened when they found out about the snails. So has that issue been mitigated? Has that issue been addressed? Because apparently it seemed like those snails had a really big, or they're pretty important. That's why it kind of halted, I guess, the groundbreaking or some construction. That's two. All right, the three, you also need to understand that, I mean, they're still finding, right, a person that's, what do you call this, someone to oversee the project manager. Yeah. They're still working on that. And then four, too, once everything is fine, I mean, I don't know if they have a funding already in place, because when we, during the JFK rebuild, I know there were ARA funds that the late Senator Pangolin was pushing, but we kind of, didn't want to go that route. So we kind of, I know there was a creative way that was pushed as far as getting funding from investors in New York. So again, right, funding is an issue. Last one, again, right, you have the issue of protests, right? There's going to be protests. And, especially with the amount of money that is expected to be spent on this project, I mean, people are going to be wanting it. So part of the reason why, too, I wanted to come and testify is because, if double sessions are going to happen at JFK for 5 to 7 years, I mean, that's going to be ridiculous. And I hope that, the goal to rebuild Sanchez is a lot faster than 5 to 7 years, but it won't get done, or it won't move quick enough if the Sanchez community doesn't get involved and start, pushing the issue and kind of, holding the leaders accountable. So I just wanted to kind of leave with that, Senator.
Thank you, sir. Senator Brown, did you have any comments, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly good evening to you and to all of you that are here this evening. I certainly appreciate the testimony as well. I mean, it's frustrating going to these meetings, and certainly for DOE in particular, because it seems we just can't get it right, and I don't know why. It's not a complicated process. If I had one job and that's what I had to do every day, I think I'd be able to do it. And it's frustrating for us who have to deal with many issues on our plate, and those that are, full-time doing something not do it. Like purchasing air conditioners at the hospital and then finding out that they don't have the plugs and the electrical lines to connect them. It's one of those roll your eyes up in your head moment, and it's frustrating. And, I remember Simon Sanchez when it was first built in the early 70s. I think I first went in there in 1973 when they had an event up there, and I don't know what the future is going to hold, because there are many schools on Guam that are far older than Simon Sanchez. I went to Price School. Price School was there since the 60s. There's many of them that in the years ahead we're going to have to either address refurbishment or probably rebuilding. And at this pace, if this is how we're going, it's going to be challenging. I was at DPW when JFK was rebuilt. And our job was certainly to make sure it was rebuilt and rebuilt properly, because the contractor was doing things without permits. So that was another mess we had to jump some hurdles on, but I'm glad, eventually the students got back to the school. I know there are challenges in our government, and at some point, I don't know if you as a public are going to demand performance, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of people in very important positions that don't perform, and there's very little consequence. Us, you cannot elect us, so we don't run again. That's, we can be removed from office. But the rest of the government is getting more and more insulated as time goes on, that they're not responsive. And so that's really what you have to decide. We've protected so much the operations within government and the inefficiencies within government that it's almost to the point you can't get them to perform. And you can elect whoever you want to elect to office and nothing changes, as long as the structure remains insulated from the public. That's why even for you, you work in the Department of Education, and you can't even get the information you feel you need to operate and do the work you need to do to teach, or know where you're going and what you're doing. And that doesn't make a lot of sense. It really doesn't make a lot of practical sense. But what changes? You can put different directors or whatever, and you're still, same old story. So that's the challenge. I'm for efficiency. I'm for hard work. I spend a lot of time, we all have, to do this job. We have to go to, ask thousands of people to review our resume and decide whether or not we should be in these positions for 2 years. But that's not the same for the rest of the government of Guam. Fire someone that's incompetent. Try to fire someone that's abusing their position. It's very difficult. Matter of fact, we reward people for doing bad. And I think that's backwards. It shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it's set up right now. And until people are willing to make the decisions to not be so protective of the mediocrity that's happening in our government, you can elect whoever you want to be the next governor, senator, mayor, whatever. You're going to get the same thing. And at some point you get frustrated that some people just give up and don't bother anymore, or I've done my time and walk away, and then the problems unfortunately don't get solved. They just keep going on and on. So anyway, I appreciate your testimony and certainly look forward to anyone and everyone else here who has comments they would like to make this evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Mr. Andres, just on the, and so I know, right, the process had been in, under the Guam Department of Education with the previous superintendent. But when we were elected to the term in the 37 Guam legislature, there was a new bill that was introduced. And this bill, I mean, they had everybody from the governor's office, the lawyers, the former superintendent, Judy Wampat, working on this bill. And what we were told was that this was the bill that they believed would address all the issues that you're talking about. It's a lease-to-own financing. And I'm going to follow up on the snails, but I think there was some new information about the snails. Principal Ms. Nyan, did you know anything about the snails? Yeah. Thank you. That's what it was. Is they decided to build around the part with the snails because the snails are gonna be very slow to move anywhere else. So, and they're actually faster than the process of building Simon Sanchez. Apparently, yeah. It's again, it's unfortunate. I fought very hard to get the Department of Education in my committee because I have kids in the public school system, and so it's definitely been just one thing after another. But I'm committed to sort everything out and to get the facts and the information that you guys need. So if you can't make it to the oversight hearing on Thursday, please watch on the live stream. Okay, and so we'll just go down the list here again. June Escalona. No, okay. Wilfredo Ortega. Antonio Watley II. I think some of you were just signing in, right? Okay. Oh, sure. Come on up, sir. Right. Eddie Cruz.
They might not like what I want to say.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Some
Mr.
of
Cruz.
you senators know me. I'm the kind of guy that grabs the bull by the horns. I've assisted you guys writing some of the laws. I've assisted you guys.
Mr. Cruz, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but could you just state your name?
My name is Eddie Cruz, Jr. Most people know my dad, so I want to differentiate. I'm from Jigo. I live up the street. And I'm also currently the president of Tumon John F. Kennedy High School Alumni Association. So I'm kind of familiar with John F. Kennedy High School. As an engineer, I was kind of involved with the redesign of John F. Kennedy High School and the problems they had, including wanting to move them off that site. So silently, because I'm a contractor also, I didn't want to have conflict of interest, and so I said, okay, I'm not going to bid on this project, but I will assist them on whatever professional advice they need. So, a lot of these things that you guys talk about, and I tried to listen to everything, even in the past, are not brand new problems. We talk about not having classrooms. We had that in the past. We had temporary classrooms. We moved all over the island in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So that's an easy solution right there if you're talking about not having classrooms. You could easily put temporary classrooms and have John F. Kennedy, have Simon Sanchez at the same time as John F. Kennedy if you wanted to. Back in the day when they were talking about John F. Kennedy and they didn't have financing, there was a bunch of us businessmen that kind of formulated that buyback or leaseback kind of options, all the different options. There was probably about 16 different options we looked at and we presented to the governor. And my biggest issue with a lot of these things that you guys keep talking about is exactly what Senator Brown said. There's a disconnect here. There's an issue where people have gotten so territorial. I know, I'll give you a fine example. Most recently, John F. Kennedy High School had their mega reunion. And every time we tried to use a facility on the campus, we ran into a stumbling block. One of them public health. The other one, we had to pay the contractor who owned the leaseback contract for use of the thing. You know, a lot of various things. We were the ones that put the statue back at JFK and fixed the park up and everything else. And if anybody wonders why the statue's outside the fence, it's exactly because these disconnects. Where the contractor wanted to demolish the statue site because he didn't want to be responsible for maintenance of the statue and you know, all these questions that came in with it. That's why there's no flagpole in the front. The flagpole was moved elsewhere on the campus. But those are the things that really bothered me about everything to do with Department of Education. I remember back when I first came back, we had business leagues, we had all things that, you know, we use the recreational facilities of the high school. All of a sudden, those things started disappearing. Where did all those programs go? You know, that's one of the downfalls that happen to Parks and Rec. Same thing happened. You get licensed groups that think they own the facilities and don't provide use of it for the general public. And that bothered me quite a bit. Just entering here, I was asked a great question. The ballparks right behind the Harmon Loop swimming pool, or Harmon swimming pool, are getting refurbished. And because I'm a major supplier of topsoil on island, they asked me, is that your soil? I said, absolutely. They said, who paid for it? I said, not Parks and Rec, they ain't got no money. Not no school, because it's not really connected to a school. I said, the Koreans came in and they provided the manpower, and because of 3 individuals, Will Stinnett, Mike Kanata, and I'm trying to think who the third one is, but anyway, I said, I don't want your money. I don't want to deal with the government and go on through a procurement process that sometimes gets challenged or gets wasted. We need to do this now. I'll give you what you need. Just do it. That's what you senators need to do as politicians. You know, I know the governor's a bully. I know that the branches, they try to micromanage, and that, I think that's a big part of it, is the micromanaging. I think you guys could put your foot down and say, this is what the people of Guam want. This is going to be the law. We're going to pass this law. Let's see you veto it. And if you put your foot down, I think you're going to get away with it. Because that's what the people are waiting for you to do, is to get strong and tell them what direction we're going. We don't truly have a leader, if you ask me. Because I see you guys fighting about the hospital, about this and that. I hear Dr. Shea getting in there. You know, these are all simple solutions. Like I said, even with the classroom overcrowding, you know, then I hear the superintendent say, oh, we're going to shut down some of the schools. You got to remember, when Dodea first took over, what did they do? They built temporary schools. Then they took them down and they replaced them with permanent schools. You know, where did they get the funding? I had a long talk with Congressman Moylan. If part of the problem is the impact from the compact, then we need to go up the chain of command and say, hey, you caused this, we did it. Now help us. Now we're seeing they want to put nuclear reactors. I'm part of a team that's looking at where we're going to put these nuclear reactor generators, because the federal government has already said the Guam government has no say-so. We have the right of eminent domain, and we have the right to defend our country, and we're going to do whatever the mission needs. GPA had their chance through the power pool agreement to provide power to the military so they wouldn't have to have their own power plants. Where are we at today? We're load shedding. What does that do to the mission? They could easily back up a submarine or an aircraft carrier and plug in and say, okay, we're going to provide nuclear power to our base facilities. Where does that leave us outside the fence? But you guys as leaders need to be leaders. You know, I like where you're going. I like what you say, but we're chasing our tails. You know, we're wasting money. Every time I hear Public Works say, oh, well, we're going to do this. I have a close relationship. You guys know, because I've worked on that weight law for the trucks with Vince Ariola, DPW. and he's juggling. He's trying to figure out what are we going to do. We're trying to recover from the typhoon. We're trying to fix the roads. We fought the federal government to come up with a pavement formula so that the roads were not affected, that when we do build a road, it lasts a little longer. We've worked with them now to do some maintenance and try to restructure the way traffic moves on our island. That's the things we need to do. But you can't have DPW doing 10 different directions. In the old days, DPW took care of all the public facilities, all the buildings, including GMH, mind you. And the old GMH was in good shape for a long, long time. I think that the only reason we moved to the current location was because Medical Center Marianas was going bankrupt, and the Catholic Church needed to sell that building. You guys probably don't, I don't know if you remember that. Recent rumors were that GRMC was going to go the same route, and the governor had in her back pocket that she was going to buy the building. Now, going back to leaders, if you're going to do something, tell us and let's go that direction. That Milo campus would have been fine if everybody got together and says, okay, this is what we want. If you've been to mainland hospitals, they are not necessarily located where doctors' clinics are and whatever. And I tried to tell that to Dr. Shea. Doctors' clinics are where the population exists. Then they transfer their patients to hospitals. University of Washington is one perfect situation there. Seattle Children's Hospital. And I've been to those hospitals most recently. I have a granddaughter that's getting ready to get a kidney transplant. And they have agreements between the hospital because one is a pediatric hospital exclusively and one is for adults. So they have an agreement how they integrate everything from doctors, nurses, funding. They even work with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which takes care of Indian groups that can't afford health care. We haven't even got that far here. We're still haggling about the public health centers and everything else. So I just want to finalize my testimony by saying that you guys hold the key. It's always been that the governor wants to do what they want to do, and they provide contracts on the side. We've seen these long-term contracts where the port couldn't get the property next to it for container yard because somebody previously had leased that property for a long term at a sweetheart deal of, oh, you only pay us this little bit of rent until you develop the place and then you pay us back. That's what I'm worried about with these long-term leases. But I think that John F. Kennedy High School was built, even though it was a little expensive, somebody put their foot down and it was narrowed down to be the only alternative, and that's why they consider that lease back. And we've got some other schools, Attica, Ukudu, Cortec did those. And I was kind of monitoring those. But we can do that with anything, I don't know why we can't even build a Simon Sanchez High School. The military gave us part of Marlboro property for a while there, and we didn't do anything with it. Why? I'll tell you why. Because the politicians couldn't agree and couldn't sit down and make a choice and become real leaders. That's what we need. Maybe you're right, Senator Brown. Maybe we're getting too diversified and people are doing this and that and oh, that's not important. Let's look at this. Or this is what, we can't do that anymore. We're going to this next deal and we're going to create another crisis for ourselves. What's going to save us next? Luckily this last year we had a typhoon. We got money from that. We got the ARA funds. We got money for that. We got money from COVID. But have we used it? Have we used it wisely? We still got the same problems. We still got the hospital problem, education a problem. But I say, open up the schools, give it back to the public, let them pay for it. Let these teams and the Chamber of Commerce and all these other organizations that want to sponsor and use the facilities for whatever it might be. We used to even have banquets and stuff in the gyms back years, in the 60s and 70s. DOE could make money doing that, but they decided to kill it, and they decided to fence all the schools off. They decided not to let the kids play there after hours. Do you guys remember when the schools had no fences? Kids went and used the swings, used the field to play, That's what I want you guys to do. Take the bull by its horns. Make the decision and let's do it. We don't have no more time. And I'll just leave it at that. I just hope you guys see the light and do what's best for the community, because that's what we need, including crime. Thank you, Senators.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz.
Your turn.
Sir?
I didn't know if you wanted to respond to him. Yeah. I'll try to make this quick. I am just bouncing off of Mr. Andreas. I'm only here as a support. I've only been teaching for 5 years, so I actually came in during the pandemic era. Oh, I'm sorry, Senators. My name's Antonio Wadley II. I'm a fifth-year teacher. Been teaching at JFK for 4 years. It's honestly one of the best campuses I've ever been on. Great team, leadership I really appreciate. Huge fan of Dr. Adamas, though I think I annoy her a lot too. Like I said, I'm only here mainly as a support to Mr. Andres and Mr. Ortega. We're part of the Social Studies Department. You said, Senator, that you received some letters, some emails from the students. Well, the person you have to thank is that man right there, Angelo Andreas. He actually talked
Thank you, sir.
to the people that I wanted to speak for today. I'm actually, fun fact, I'm an advisor for 5 clubs at the school. The Environmental Club, Uprising, the Anime Gaming Community, the Academic Challenge Bowl, and then the class of 2024. It really dawned on me, I think it was yesterday or today, how that class in itself, and I don't mean just JFK, I will rope in Sanchez and Ukadu into this as well, but never once did they ever have a normal high school life, normal high school year. When they all came in 2020, 2021, obviously the pandemic, right? Barely could go to school, mostly online. Half of them are asleep, half of them kind of are paying attention. And then we had like shifts where it's like cohorts, like 3 to 4 people in a classroom. It was strange for them. And then 2021, 2022, we kind of got to a good start. Then we had the resurgence, right? Then everybody went back online, right? And then we had to do cohorts again. And then maybe somewhere near the middle of the year, they kind of came back. And then last year was really the only true year I would say they had a high school year, like a genuine one. And then this year, the double sessioning. And it affected them very greatly. And I felt really bad for our seniors. JFK, Simon Sanchez, Ukadu, again, never had a genuinely full senior year, a full senior experience, a full high school experience. And I do want to draw your attention to the back. There's 3 young ladies back there. One of them is the president of the class of 2025. And I believe those are some of her members as well. My hope is to really push that you don't make them the next victims of not being able to have a full high school career. Because they're right after 2024, and a lot of the things I mentioned, they've also went through. And I personally would love for them to have a full senior year. I'm talking all of it, even staying back after school to work on some projects, which they desperately need to do. I can't tell you how many times where the class of 2024 wanted to do something, but it was really hard because we couldn't find a place to meet. Like I said, I'm an advisor, right? Uprising won first place in the dance competition. However, they never had a chance to practice this year because they desperately tried to find a place to practice. We couldn't use our facilities until about 5:30, and I'm telling you right now, coming back to school after leaving the school is pretty hard. And I even had to reach out to Central and use some of their facilities in there for my team to practice. The Environmental Club, which used to meet every Friday after school, now we can only meet every Saturday from 7 to 9, which I don't know if you ever try to force a kid to wake up super early on a weekend, but it's hard to convince them, right?
They would really have to be passionate about that. So in this folder here, I've actually had a bunch of my students write letters to all of you, basically sharing their opinions on it. Now, I will say this, they're freshmen, so their mentality about this whole thing is, oh yeah, this is great. I get out of school early. But I think in reading that, you got to look at the subtext of it all and the sadness of it. They're writing about how much they love it, mostly because they don't know what they're missing out. You know, as a social studies teacher, one of the core things we try to teach our kids, and I think we should teach everybody this, is their rights. Like, how many people in here can tell me all 10 Bill of Rights right now? From 1 to 10. And most of our kids don't even know it either. And my fear is that this lack of knowledge, right, builds complacency. You just mentioned a little bit too about that complacency, right? I don't want them to grow complacent with the idea that school is a 5-hour thing they go to, come home, and that's it. You know, we all remember after school activities, after school events. That's part of the high school experience, you know? And they're being denied that experience. They don't know any better, as clearly as they've shown in this. Because I promise you, if they had known about how great our activity days are, which is put together by Way and Mr. Ortega, you know, if they knew about all the great activities we used to do after school, I don't think they'd speak so positively about the double session as they do now. I think they'd be more aware of what they had missed, and that regret would sink in. And I don't want the kids to have any regrets. I want them to have fun. You know, the class of 2027 shows a lot of potential. And they seem to be a solid group. They remind me of the class of 2023 that was ran by Mr. Andres. And my hope is that they continue to grow and they have that full high school experience. So I hope that, you know, the legislature, the team, the senators, you know, really strip away the politics, which I get is really hard, but strip away the politics, and the core is that, you know, as cliche as it sounds, we got to think of the children. And I don't want to deny them an opportunity to say, hey, you know, one time when I was in high school, I did this one thing. We all can say that about one thing in high school. But what about the future ones? What about the class of 2025? Can they fully say that? If we don't give them the opportunity, they won't have the chance. So I appreciate you hearing me out. I thank you so much. And I will stop talking now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watley. Senator Tydegui, did you have any? Senator Brown?
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cruz. Thank you, Mr. Watley. Jermaine Guerrero. Maria Rose Martinez. Jenny Martinez. Okay. Diana and Gabe Hayashi. Tory family. I'll take it. Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Guerrero.
Day, my name's Jermaine Guerrero. I'm a resident of Jigo. And before I begin, I would like to say thanks to Mr. Cruz, because he is 100% correct. You guys are, you know, he would say servants. I personally would say, or he would say leaders. I personally would say servants. Okay, you guys work for us. And therefore, in that position, everything that the government does, you guys have to make that decision. And so, Mr. Angelo, it was them standing outside. I teach at Simon Sanchez right now, and I know the students up here in Jigo, they're so accustomed to out of sight, out of mind. That's just what it's been. And so I struggle every day trying to bite my tongue and tell those kids, you know what? I think it's a blessing that we're at JFK, because if you guys all go out there right now with your pickets, just like JFK did, now you're forcing them to listen. Up here at Jigo, you could go stand out in the road and, they're just flying by. Now you're in the central location. All eyes are on you now. And so I bite my tongue every day, trying not to, to do that. And it's unlike me. And I just want to tell you guys a story. Okay, I went to all the schools here in Jigo. I went to FB Leon Guerrero when it was an elementary school. Then we moved to DLP. We went back to FB in middle school, and then I attended Simon Sanchez in high school. When I was at FB, I was part of the student body, and so every day I would play in the parking lot where the teachers would park basketball. I didn't care if I was hitting their vehicles. The former mayor, Mr. Ron Flores, he was a para-educator. He used to chase me around the parking lot, and I didn't give a damn. I said, hey, what do you want me to do after lunch? We got all this energy. You want us to just sit in the hallway and do nothing? So eventually I became a nuisance to the admin, and Ms. Wanpat put me under in OR, the observation room, where in the observation room, which I spent 6 months, I wrote a letter to the governor at the time, Joe Ada. I wrote 10 letters. I would go into the school, use the Xerox machine. I didn't care. And I would mail it to him. And I would ask him, why is FB Leon Guerrero the only middle school on Guam without a gym? Every other middle school had a gym. We had no gym. So therefore, what are we going to do? So I wrote to him every day, and he responded. I actually shoveled the sand to build that gym at FB, which in turn Simon Sanchez benefited from it, and a lot of the neighborhoods here in Jigo, all the parks got refurbished. And so that's my question is, we are the voters, and we put you guys in power to do the job that benefits the voters. Why is that not happening? Why are we pointing the fingers to those that are working? You guys are the ones responsible for it. Why isn't that getting done? And I understand the process. I study political science. I'm a history major. I worked for Port Authority. Ms. Brown, I left before you became part there. But I was part of bringing the new cranes to the island. I was the guy who stopped the privatization of the port. So again, I went online and I said it's up to those that are placed in power to get this done. Now, you have every year, how many graduates on Guam every year become voters? So as they become an adult in high school, they go out into the real world, they're being taught to elect the leaders. Or again, I would say, to elect the servants for the people of Guam. Now, as they elect the servants, they're so accustomed to hearing, it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. So what do? We end up creating a society where they do not want to vote. I mean, what is the population on the island? And we only had, 60,000 voters? So if we're not going to create this society where they see the problem, and the schools, that's where we educate these people. That's where we educate ourselves. And what are we actually doing? It's there, I see it. There's money, it's there. And we're so accustomed to honest grafting in the government. And it's about who's gonna get that contract. My stepdad was Fred Santiago. So he was the director for GSA. There's a racetrack. We see all the crooked things happening. It's right in front. Even in Jigo, it's happening. You got a racetrack that's not even a racetrack. So it's Chamorro Lanchas property, designed for homes. And what are we doing with it? We're still trying to open it for a racetrack, for a very small community. Yet you have a school here a community that needs its school. And what are we doing? That's what I want to know. What are we doing? Because it's not our responsibility. We've placed that on you by electing you. And all I ask is, can we get it done? That's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Guerrero. Mrs. Martinez?
Half a day, Senators. I'm Maria Martinez, and I'm here just to be the voice for my children. I have children in every single elementary, Head Start, middle school, and high school. I have them whenever. I'm on the PTO for Machinauno. I'm on the board for the Head Start program. My kids, actually, I have 5 teenagers, and I'm here to be the voice of them today. Thank you. They watch your social media is a big thing, guys. So my kids currently watch and they see what you do. They see how you're helping for the brothers, and I'm sure everybody else is in there. They're just seeing it through social media and the IG. That's what they follow. That's the new thing. So, once again, I thank you guys for whoever is committed to keep on following through and fixing those things for the kids, because I do, like I said, have a kid in every single here in Jigo, okay, every single school. And those out there that know me, they know me also. I'm very vocal as well. I'm here to be a voice for them. They actually are one of the kids from Simon Sanchez, 5 of the kids actually from Simon Sanchez attending at John F. Kennedy. I'm here to be their voice. I'm here because, yes, they are hearing all the rumors. They are becoming disturbed. They don't know what's going to happen to them. They already been a victim of not being able to attend their prom, not knowing what a bonfire is, not knowing, there's just so much they've missed in high school. And now to know that they're even going to have to go further, or like I said, like you guys mentioned today, it's a rumor. But for them, JFK is already a safety hazard. For them to drive back and forth, it's a safety hazard for them. Then they got to go to attend another school to go to their sports. They can't even use the facilities at JFK, just like JFK. They can't use their own facility. And it's the same thing. The kids feel the same way. They feel it's not their home. They don't belong. We just want their school back. They just want, even if you have to tear all of it down and put this in a small building or put us with Uguru or someone close to home, they want to be near home. They don't want to go further and further away, because we do have children that's driving. For a parent, I'm afraid every day. I call because they're in that midst of that traffic, and it takes them an hour to get home. My kids on the school bus, the ones that ride the school bus to come home, they're sitting at the edge of the chair. It's a problem. The buses are overcrowded. It's not being worked on. We're telling the bus drivers that this is not right. I had my daughter told to sit on the floor of the bus. This is a problem. This cannot happen. So I have a child now driving, but of course I'm calling to make sure he's home safe. Like, I'm calling every time, like, did you make it out of the traffic? And to go all the way now to know that they're gonna be put in Tizen, that's worse. It's further and further to home, so where are they going to be? They just want to know, where is their home going to be? I have a freshman, I have 3 juniors, and I have a senior. They're all being denied their high school education. Like they said, there's nowhere to practice. My kids are cultural practitioners. It's so hard in the school to even start a club. I worked with the principals hard on since last school year, but because of all the rules and the regulations, they can't fundraise this, they can't sell this, they can't do that. Based on location, based on public health, all of this is a factor, and all they're trying to do is run a club. They want to be, every club wants to make something, leave their legacy behind. And yes, there's nowhere to practice. They feel like they're bothering every other school. They just want a home. Instead of focusing like everybody else on all these things that don't need to be focused on, we need to focus on that whole healthcare. We need to focus on education. There's things that are very, very important, And it's for our future educators, our future senators. If we cannot provide them with the education, then how can they come back and lead? How can they get that education that they need? How can they get these scholarships if they can't even get to practice because they need to get on a bus if they don't drive to get to another school? Parents are at work. We can't get to John F. Kennedy and then get them to another school for practice. So these are the things that our kids are struggling with, and they wanted to let our leaders know that they see what you're doing out there, but they're hoping and praying that you guys can come together and work on it faster to give these kids back their homes to themselves, give them their own home, Simon Sanchez, their own home, same FB, Ukuru, everybody, they're struggling. It's not their home. They don't feel like they belong, and that's part of a lot of problems why the kids are acting up in the school, because they don't feel like they belong. They can't use the gym. They can't use the weight room. These are the things that keep these kids out of trouble. If they can't hold their clubs, they're looking for other ways. They're going to go and make trouble because they cannot feel a sense of belonging somewhere. And these clubs help them stay out of trouble. So we need to push to do something and work with the school, with public health, giving some lenience in our schools so that they can have this, because they need to build that money so that they can. One of the things that my son is trying to do, and a bunch of my other kids, is they wanted to open a Gupa Chamorro for this year. But what? Because we're not in our school, we have 2 hours to hold a Gupa Chamorro. How can we teach anything in 2 hours? We can't teach the kids respect. We can't teach them the culture. We barely can do anything, but we're making do. They are making do with what they got. But they're just asking for somewhere to belong, somewhere that they can make an impact, somewhere that they can feel like that is theirs. And that's basically it. I wanted to just let you guys know that the kids are watching. The kids are looking. The kids, they hear these things. And this is one of the reasons why there's problems in the school, because the kids out there are not feeling like they belong. People don't know, what to do already with themselves because everything is limited. What they can do, the sports they can join, it's limited for them. They need to be able to have their own place where they can just, after school, straight to sports, straight to doing their school programs, all these things. And if we can get that back, you guys are going to see that the school is going to be a lot smoother. The kids are going to be out of trouble because they're having, these programs and everything that they need to attend to versus then coming home and not knowing what to do. Another thing is coming home at dark. I live in Motagua. It's dangerous, okay? Nobody comes. You call the cops, nobody comes, okay? We've called people walking around in the bus stops with machetes, walking down the stuff, and they wonder why our kids are bringing brass knuckles and stuff to school because they gotta walk to the bus stop. Some early in the morning, some coming home late at night. Buses are late. It's already dark and they're having to walk from the bus stop to home. Lots of these kids, we see it on their community chat, have no lights. And they're having to walk home in the dark. So me, and a lot of parents can't do what I do because I'm not working, of course, I'm just taking care of my kids and whatever, is I have to drive out to make sure, to every single child, to make sure that nothing is happening. A lot of parents, they're working. They can't get home to their child on time, and they have no lights. Coming home 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night, is very dangerous. We don't live in a safe community anymore. And by the time the officers are able, because they don't have enough officers to attend right away to, something is happening to our children. A kid got sliced riding their bike in our village with a machete in their face. This is the kind of thing that's going on here in the village. We cannot afford for our kids to be coming home in the dark or getting out to the bus stop when there is no light. These are things that need to be fixed. Senator, asking, the kids are asking, because they're scared. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you, senators.
Thank you. Senator Swasey, Mr. Martinez. Ma'am?
Hello. Okay, so I am a student from Simon Sanchez High School. I am a freshman. I'm 15 years old, and after hearing everybody and like what they had to say, I felt like I needed to speak something. So let me tell you a story. So.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Can you just state your name for the record?
Oh, okay. My name is Summer. My name's Summer Wistig. So basically, during COVID, I was in 5th grade. I was in 5th grade during COVID when it hit, and then we had to go online. So we didn't have a proper graduation for elementary school, which was, it was okay. It was like a drive-in thingy, and that was what happened. And then we went on to online for FBLG. I went to FBLG. We went to online immediately, and from my experience, it wasn't good at all. I know for a fact that most of us who usually have like good grades and know what we are learning, we're doing great. But once it got to online learning, a lot of people just went all the way down. Our grades, we had no idea what was going on because we were just looking at a screen, waiting for something to happen, and no interaction at all. Some people were on their phone because there was too many distractions around us. We had to make sure we were in a good learning environment where we were able to learn face to face and what the teachers actually meant. And what they needed to teach us, sometimes some teachers just, for my opinion, so at FB, I was actually treasurer for 8C. I was treasurer for 8C. During my last year, my 8th grade year for middle school, we did not have a banquet. My parents would usually tell me back then, you guys will have banquets, proms, and stuff like that. More specifically me and some other students, up till now, we have never had that type of experience. Some people had banquets, even in middle school, for their graduation. We had nothing. We didn't even have a graduation because of the typhoon. So far, in my school life, I've never once gotten a proper graduation. Not once. And up till now, because of the double sessioning, we have been very limited to things, like very limited. We had an actual school, but when we did, it was COVID, so we had very limited things to do because of the mask and other sanitary things. Since we're at a different school, we're confused. They're telling us to pay to go into the gym during lunchtime. They're telling us to pay to have fun Sorry, this is the first time I'm doing something like this.
You're doing good, baby. You're doing good. Go ahead, baby.
That's good. Start young, Miss Summer.
Go ahead, baby.
This is the first thing I've been to as well. Okay, so I have no idea. That's what I'm wondering. They're telling us to pay 50 cents to go inside a gym and have some fun. I don't understand why we have to do that.
I'm sorry, who's they?
Oh,
Who's they?
okay, so I don't know if it's JFK or if it's Sanchez, but one of the administrators, when it's our time to go in, we have to, I think it's JFK.
Okay, I'd like the principal's here. I'd like to
I'm
hear
sorry,
what
Miss
she has to say.
Nayan, could you? Okay,
Oh, okay, sorry. I was just a little confused on that because they were telling us to pay.
I see. So because you can't sell food because the sanitary permit's $12 million, Instead, you're charging admission to the gym. Okay.
Why would you do that? That gym is for all the students to enjoy and appreciate, and then for you to utilize something that the one space they can actually go to enjoy themselves, you're going to charge them? That's ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. I think, Madam Principal, that needs to change. Okay, and if you don't do it, I will tell the superintendent.
I think what it is like you said, the clubs are trying to find any way to get funds because for the kids, and that's what they're coming to. That's why I'm saying now you have like Summer, who because of the double school, is confused of what's going on, but. That's why they're asking. That's why John F. Kennedy, Sanchez, we're all asking to have public health work with the schools because a Reese's peanut butter or a Kit Kat or something wrapped, some kind of food that's packaged already from the store ain't gonna kill nobody. Cookies ain't never kill nobody. Okay, but they can't even sell a cookie. They can't even sell a Hershey's. They can't even sell Hershey's Kisses for Valentine's. So these are things that are hurting the clubs because the clubs are struggling and the kids are they're struggling just to keep their clubs going because that's their fund. They wouldn't have to utilize the gym for anything if they would be able to, if they're able to open more ways for these kids to make a profit. And I didn't know about them having to pay that much money. They're probably, because there is a club where the clubs have to turn in all the money, maybe a proceed is going out there that the clubs, we're not even aware, I'm not aware of, whatever, but some of the kids, that's where they're trying to get, that's why it's never enough. Because a whole bunch of proceeds is going to whatever sanitation permit or whatever. These are things that needs to be relieved from the schools like right away because the schools can't do anything. And Ms. Summer is telling you, they're using it and she can't use her gym.
Okay, so going a little back into middle school when we were in a double session with Ugudu, I would like to mention that we weren't able to fundraise anything or sell anything at that school. We just had to get in and get out immediately. And sometimes, I'm not too positive about this, but I just want to let you know on what I've heard or what my friends tell me because they were in sports themselves. They told me that before school, they went to their sports, and even after school, they also had to go to sports, before and after, even on the weekends, because I don't understand that. And as well as, I tried out for soccer. I got home almost around 8 p.m. It was tryouts, but just think about it. 8 p.m., going back home, leaving school around 12, and then getting home around 8 p.m. That's just so confusing.
So hard.
We need an actual place to settle down and have our own high school experience, like what you guys did back then. Back then, you guys had like a bunch of things. You guys, from what my dad has told me, sometimes he would stay back in the library and do some of his work. We don't have a library to stay at and to do our own work. We want to try and educate ourselves and learn more, but we don't even have a library to stay back for a bit and study for things that are important. We need somewhere to settle down. That's all.
Good job, Summer. Good job, Summer.
Thank you, Miss Summer, and I'm sorry. I just want to apologize to you. My kids have been in double session, DL Paris, UP Elementary. My son is over at Ukadu. They're all the same things you mentioned. It's very challenging, especially in the shared campuses when we're calling it a shared campus, but apparently from what you're saying, what I'm hearing from everyone else, we're not really sharing.
I would like to mention something else about the administrators, there you go. So from what I'm a musician. I'm a musician, and this teacher at FBLG, she's been teaching ever since my mom has been there. My mom, ever since my mom has been there, and I don't know what the principal was thinking about, but she was thinking of letting her stop teaching. She wanted to keep on going and teach more students, but she tried firing her after all of this has been happening. A lot of teachers who teach music, they're very passionate about their work. My teacher now, his name is Mr. Maruka. My teacher now, because we don't have good enough storage. From what he told me, there's some teachers at at JFK, they have some things like toilet paper stacked on their desk because there's not enough storage because we're taking their space. And because of the space limit capacity, my teacher has to bring in a bunch of instruments because he cannot have them in the classroom because it's too small. We want to learn how to play music and like enjoy our time while we have time in high school, but because of the double sessioning, he can't even have some instruments like drums, guitars, and pianos there for us to learn. And what he does for us to learn, he brings every instrument in the morning from the help of his students into the classroom, and then we have to bring them back out. It can't stay inside. He told us that he brings it in and then he takes them all out, and that's a lot of stuff. A whole drum set. He has to take out and put back in a whole drum set.
Ms. Summer, keep speaking out, okay? I appreciate your testimony, and again, I apologize. Our government, we have to do better. We have to show the young people that we believe in you, because when we're sending you to a campus that's not in your home village, that your education is being impacted in so many ways, then we have failed you. And we all have to work harder to really let you believe that we believe in you. And right now, we're not doing that, and we're failing. And I'm sorry our government has let you down. I know that I'm committed to working very hard. My colleagues are trying to work very hard. And in a lot of ways, I'm trying to micromanage, unfortunately, the Guam Department of Education, because it seems like that's the only way to get results. I mean, they don't jump when you ask nicely, right? They don't even hear you when you ask nicely. And so we're going to keep working hard. Just concentrate on your studies, as hard as that may be. I mean, it's how do we expect our kids to excel at academics, right, when they're going to schools in the situation like you are with the double sessions, where you're obviously not getting an adequate education at all. So we're going to work harder, and we're going to take your concerns back to the superintendent. I thank you for speaking out. Maybe if the GDOE leadership hears this coming from the kids themselves, right, because it seems like as many PTO meetings as I've been to, it's almost in one ear, out the other with these guys. But maybe you speaking out will really reach their hearts and open them up to work harder. Thank you, Ms. Summer.
Thank you, Senators.
Test. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Gabe Hayashi. I was on there. I'm a parent of a senior shark, and I've been here I'm originally from Hawaii, been here for a long time. Just a little background for me. Mine is 3 parts. I have one question for the group, for the people here, one question for you, and then a testimony. Trying to make it quick. So I know that my kids play a lot of sports, and I notice whenever school is hosting a particular event, I have to pay entrance fees to watch my kids play. And also a lot of other, and that goes on for a long time with entrance fees. I see a lot of money collected. I just want to know, where is that money going and how is it getting spent and who's taking account for it? I don't know if anyone can answer that one. My next question is that I noticed DPW took over the contract or to help out with Simon Sanchez build. To my understanding, they were in charge in the past as well too, but then they were removed because they violated some procurement. They had some procurement violations. So why did that Simon Sanchez contract go back to DPW? And then a testimony is one thing that hits close to home is my wife used to work in the procurement office over in GDOE. The dynamics of that office is very off, I should say. It's very undisciplined, it's not very structured, and not very organized at all. I'm sure you guys know that already. For example, the personal experience is one of the, the buyers got in my wife's face when my wife was trying to just help out. And when she called crying me at work, I have to leave work and go there to DOE to check up on my wife because this particular dude got in her face. I'm not there to start a problem because I don't want to lose my job, but just to check up on her and make sure she's safe in the first place. When I arrived there, I guess it was told that I went there to confront the individual, which I did not confront the individual at all because I'm trying to just keep a cool head and stuff like that. And I was told by the boss of the procurement office that the cops was notified, and if I ever showed up, I was gonna get arrested again. I was gonna get arrested that time. So I went to the cops actually, and then just to file or to get to the bottom of what happened. And when I went to the cops, they said nothing was written. I have no input or anything like that in the Guam Police Department system. So that's the kind of, I just want to say that's the kind of lies maybe and the kind of dynamics that are going on inside that office, and that really and it just really hurts that kind of behavior is going on while our kids are suffering. Like that kind of stuff shouldn't even be happening inside the office. So I think the Guam Department of Education really needs to have a big magnifying glass on them and hold people in there accountable and make sure that people that are working on certain things, such as the Simon Sanchez project, need to be qualified to work on that thing, not because Senator Kanata and there's another Kanata in the same office trying to help out with that as well too. And that kind of nepotism, I know it happens a lot here. That's fine, I guess, I don't know, but however, they need to be qualified in order to have some kind of project management experience or PMP, something along those lines to actually tackle this kind of endeavor. So that's all I have right now. So the money from all the sports, how is that helping out? And then the DP and DPW. Yeah. So
Thank you, Mr. Hayashi. Thank you for your testimony, sir. I don't know if Mrs. G, do you know anything about the admission fees? I'm pretty sure those are student or club funds. Thank you. Ms. Maria Gutierrez, the Guam Education Board.
Thank you, Senator. That's really at the school. They make that. So we need to find, maybe the principals here from Simon Sanchez, ask them how do they, the gate entrance, when kids, you go into what's the game, where does that money go? As the board, we are not involved in that, but I'll assure you, I will find out, and I'd like to know your name. I just heard your testimony. The chairman of the board, chairwoman of the board is watching right now. And everything that you guys are saying tonight, we're making a list. And we're checking it twice. And I'm glad that the three senators here are here to hear it, because I'll tell you, at the oversight, you better be prepared. Because it's the three top senators that want accountability. And they're just like me. So I assure you, Senator Brown, Senator Tello, thank you very much for being here. Because you heard from this. And we had just had our meeting last night with the superintendent. And some of this he did not mention on his report regarding the schools, the double session. And we even asked, one board member asked, the schools that you said you're going to close. He said one. I don't know who's the one. But we encourage him to start holding stakeholders meeting to let the stakeholders know. Because I'll tell you, everybody's very territorial in the school, in their village, right? We don't want to close it down. And he's still forming his committee. We're not going to wait. Because this tonight, thank you for live streaming. We asked him last night. Even all this information, the double session, very little information that he put on the report, and I always make it very public when I ask him the report so that the stakeholders that are watching the live stream can hear. But I understand Senator Barnett is going to have a bill that all report at the board meeting be put on the website, so you stakeholders should know. But I want to thank the students. Thank you for speaking up. Because this is what I want to hear from you. And I hear a lot from all of you when I meet Mr. Andres the other day. And he shared his concern. But this is at the superintendent's level. And what he reported us now, we're hearing that you guys are so concerned, and we've been pushing for him to start going out to the schools. I even asked him, how many schools have you visited since you came in July? And he hasn't completed. He said at the legislature 40. There's no 40 school. We have 41. So I hear you. That's why I'm here. And the chair is listening. So as far as this thing, it's really at the school. Because I wanted to support the students. I went to watch a game, and I had to pay. In fact, they said, go ahead. I said, no. How much are you charging? I don't get special discount, even though I'm a senior citizen. With this, no such thing, right? And I do. So I share concern, but I need to know your name because Dr. Kada won't ask me because she brought something very important that we need to know.
Thank you, Mrs. G. Right. Yeah.
So it's really at the
we'll
school
get an
level.
answer for you, Mr. Hayashi. Thank you, Mrs. G. Sir, I just wanted to address your point. You had talked about holding the management accountable. So I had introduced a bill that is now law, and it requires the Guam Department of Education to hire a company to perform the management audit. And that has been defunct, I think, since like the early 2000s. So that's one little thing that we can do to increase the accountability and transparency. Lord knows we're trying very hard. We also have monthly oversight hearings of the Guam Department of Education. Not for funsies, that's actually law. So there was a bill that we had passed that required me to have these monthly oversight hearings of GDOE and all the issues that we've brought up here at this community caucus. I mean, we discuss every month, and I don't look forward to those dates because if you're tracking the progress month to month, obviously sometimes there's no progress to report. But we are making, incremental baby step improvements. We're now seeing Tamuning Elementary is coming off its cohort schedule. So those little, I don't want to call them victories, those little improvements I think are encouraging. But what has worked, in my opinion, or seems like it's working, is keeping that pressure on, right? And that means that, every day I get messages from parents, students. I'm calling GDOE trying to get the answer. But, we need you guys to amp up your voices. I'm telling you, when they hear the students come out and speak on these issues, I think it really hits home because they're not thinking that you guys are going to come out and say stuff. They're thinking you guys are going to keep your head down and, just go to school and do your 5 hours and that's it. So your input and your sharing of how your education has been impacted by a lot of these decisions is very important.
It just seemed like because we filed a grievance and it's still going on for like months, and it, from my perspective, our perspective, it's like they're trying to just sweep it. GADU is just trying to sweep it under the rug and try to get rid of it and stuff like that. So, and that's this year. 2022. I'm sorry. 2023. I'm sorry. Yes. We filed the grievance in yeah. Yeah, but we filed the grievance.
Don't
very-
worry,
it was
she'll be
very soon.
protected.
Yeah.
So it was 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll follow up.
We'll follow up, and like Mrs. G said, the
2023.
board
I'm sorry,
chair is also-
2023.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Arashi.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you young ladies want to provide testimony? Please state your name and proceed.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Cho. I am the Guam Youth Congress representative for JFK.
Good evening. I'm Dina Soriano. I am a student at JFK, the current class of 2025 president, Biba Islanders. I am an honors AP student, an athlete, and a very active member in our clubs at school.
And likewise as Dina, I am as well. So today I'm just here to testify as a regular old student. With the double sessions with Simon Sanchez, obviously we've been waking up pretty early, going to school. School starts at 6:10, 6:15-ish. And the school class time has been cut short from 100 minutes to 70 minutes now. And taking AP and honors classes, obviously those are rigorous courses that prepare us for college, but now we only have 70 minutes to go through this. And currently in my AP Gov class, we're rushing through the chapters because we gotta get ready to take the AP test, and we don't even know if we're going to be able to finish all the chapters on time to take the AP test, so we don't even know if we'll be ready for it.
And same thing goes for my A-Push class. We are just rushing and skipping over a lot of things because we do not have enough time to cover all of that.
And especially waking up at like 5 a.m. in the morning. I used to have pre-calculus honors my first period, but I begged my counselor to switch it to my fifth because I just could not understand math at 6 a.m. in the morning. And thankfully she switched it for me, but I know that's not the case for most of my peers. And I feel that the time and the classes being cut shorter really takes away from my college application, and also along as my clubs. Usually, I remember last year after school, we would stay back, make posters, socialize with our friends while we're doing posters, learning about, when it was last year, February, we were learning about Black History Month, and now we're doing all of that online and then submitting things in. So I feel like that really takes away part of the experience.
Yeah, and going off of that, so I'm a part of Close Up and NHS, so last year we did like a lot of our preparatory stuff for our activities after school. Like we made a bunch of cards for veterans, senior citizens, we decorated our teacher's lounge and stuff. That was all after school, showing appreciation to all those people. And when we do it now, it's like we have to take our lunchtime, and it's hard because we're all clubs, all classes, trying to cram everything into the lunch hour, the meetings, making up tests, preparing for activities. There's very limited time, which is very hard to work with.
We were rushed out at 11 saying, guys, Simon Sanchez is coming in, you guys gotta get out. Like even if we're sitting in the student parking, they're like, guys, you guys gotta leave. And we're just like, we're trying, there's traffic, Simon Sanchez is trying to come in, we're trying to go out, it's pretty hard. And just, I feel that another thing is we're a part of the class of 2025, and we're fundraising, or we're trying to fundraise, but it's pretty hard not being able to sell food. We have these things called activity days, where it's usually on a Friday, and we have like an hour 30 to 2 hours to just, all the clubs are selling food, and we would just have fun. Uprising is performing, the rock band is singing, and it's just a really good time for students to enjoy themselves. But now we don't have food. All the clubs are providing is like raffles and games that are kind of ill prepared because they don't have the time to really prepare that, because we just have our lunch. And if we were to meet up after school. It would have to be somewhere else, and transportation is not available for all of my peers. And I feel that this is just really making us struggle in a sense and taking away really from our college applications. And that's what I'm most worried about. If I don't get a 3, 4, 5 on my AP test because I didn't have enough time to learn all the material, or as Summer said, during the online sessions, it was really hard to learn. I was a straight A+ student from elementary to middle school. 7th grade, COVID hit, and I got an 80, a 70, and I was like, my parents were really mad at me, and they're like, what's going on? And I was like, it's just like not clicking. Like, to be fair, I did fall asleep, but I feel like if you're staring at a screen for hours, like 5 hours on end, going from one Zoom class to another class, you're just, it's inevitable.
I also fell asleep constantly. And then also going off of the limited time and the fundraising. So the class of 25, we planned a 2K, 5K in January, and we were able to successfully pull it off, but it was so insanely hard to plan it without that time to be after school at our school, to have our committee meetings, to discuss with our advisors. It was a nightmare. We pulled it off, but it could have gone way smoother if we had the time. And of course, like we we wanted to do this 5K because we knew we couldn't sell food, which is one of the main things that makes all of our clubs and classes money. And yeah, without that, it's really set all of us so far back.
And one other thing that we would like to bring up, we understand that there's public health mandates, but it is also to our understanding that JFK is probably the only school that's actually following it. And that makes us pretty mad, because if we're not able to enjoy that luxury, why should other schools be able to?
There was a game I went to at GW, and they were selling pizza just without following the protocols that were mandated, and I was not happy about that.
Yeah, and other schools also have activity days. They were selling fried chicken, kimchi, japchae, and we're sitting here throwing balls at cups so we can win a $5 lotion.
Yeah, and all of these prizes and stuff is it's sadly coming out of the students' and parents' pockets. Like, almost everything is, yeah.
Yes, and then the public health mandates, they say that we need to keep hot foods at a certain temperature, cold foods at a certain temperature, but when we researched it, the equipment to keep those foods at those temperatures is like $300 starting price, and we can't afford that. We can't even really afford to have a junior prom right now, and if we did have a junior prom, then we wouldn't have adequate funds to have a really good graduation, so we're just planning on not having a junior prom and trying to make money in another way so we can have a great senior prom and graduation. So I feel like when my dad talks about all these things, like when I went to JFK back in '93, like we had bonfires and we would barbecue, and I'm like, bonfires? What if we get burned? And he was like, we didn't care about that back in the days. We just had fun. So I was like, wow, I wish I went to school in that era, because I went through COVID, the typhoon, now double session, so.
Yeah, and this is why fundraising for us is so important right now, because, inflation is getting insane and we need to constantly keep up. And then, what if we just charge more? Our school, our population is made up mostly of people who don't have all the amounts of money to just keep spending at school. They need to spend it on other things, on their home, and yeah, raising the prices just doesn't help anything for us.
And because we can't sell food, we kind of have to up the prices of our t-shirts. Instead of 15, we sold them for
18.
Whee!
Yeah. And this generation of students, the incoming freshmen, sophomores, and then next year, class 28, that's a generation that really lost a lot of years in middle school because of COVID. So they lost their elementary, middle school years, and then they're going to lose their high school years because of the double sessioning. Like, I'm kind of scared for the future of this island with our youth.
Well, I mean, if the future is, if you two are representative of the future that we're going to have, I'm kind of comfortable. So thank you for your testimony. It's very heartfelt and insightful, and thank you again for articulating all your concerns so well. Yes, you know, if your dad is right, you should have seen our Guput Chamora GW back in the day. Right, I mean, we was building huts, we was roasting pig, barbecuing, yes.
My dad was talking about the
Yeah,
huts.
and you know, but Mr. Guerrero brought up some points. Also, Mr. Cruz had brought up some points, and it's true. Our government's budget is $1 billion. $1 billion. But we are struggling and failing to provide the people of Guam with adequate public safety, adequate health care, and adequate education. Right? And so it's a struggle, and that's why I ran, is because we think about how it used to be back in the day. We get off from school, we could play basketball in school, or we could go to the community center and join the DPR leagues that were for the kids. Our government, when its budget was so much smaller, provided so many more services to our people. And I just scratch my head every day thinking about how do we spend $1 billion and come up short in so many, not even luxury areas. These are like the basics, right? We're talking about providing the basics. And yeah, that's all we can do is laugh about it. But you said you worry about the future. If we didn't have social promotion in the Guam Department of Education, I wonder just how many of our kids would fail, right? When we talk about the massive learning loss, I mean, we haven't even recovered from the learning loss that took place in COVID. And when we're talking about honor students who are being rushed through their lessons, trying to learn AP calculus in 70 minutes or whatever, I mean, think about the impact across the board for everyone else, and especially some of our students who struggle. And it doesn't come as easy as maybe it does for you guys. So yeah, this is it's an emergency. I really feel the state of education. I said this when I got in. We're in an emergency, and I made the argument. I introduced a bill that accelerated the public health and safety rules and regulations to be applicable at the beginning of the school year, and then the typhoon hit. And then the legislature as a body decided that we just wanted to send the kids to school because the kids got to go to school. And I argued, what kind of education are you going to get when we send you into schools that are in the state that they're in? When we send you into a school where you're only going to class for 5 hours a day? That was my whole argument. And I'm not saying, hate to say I told you so, but the alternative, of course, right, was do we not send you to school? Do we make you go online? But I think it is what it is, right? This is a situation that we're in right now, and we're all trying to work very hard to get you out of it. So we appreciate your patience, and I'm sorry it's not happening fast enough. And I'm also very grateful to you and it's unfortunate that you got to bear the brunt of, our mistakes and our leadership's inability to solve these problems for you. So again, I apologize, and thank you for your testimony. Senator Tydegui?
Yeah, and it's so true, $1 billion budget, and yet our population is actually lower than it was back then too. So combine that together, just definitely scratching both sides of your head. The one question I do want to ask is, because you're juniors and you're preparing for your senior year, how accessible are counselors for you?
Well, my counselor personally, I pay her a visit like every week, and I think she's kind of annoyed of me, but
So you have no problem seeing counselors?
But I know the past few weeks it has been really busy lately, and I've put in like 3 counselor call-out slips, but I think that was due to the freshman electives fair that they were hosting, so they couldn't call us out, but I would say it's pretty accessible.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, it's just during the beginning of the first semester or as semesters transition that it gets really busy because of add and drop and stuff. But other than that, they're accessible.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, ladies, and thank you for coming up and testifying.
All right, thank you very much.
I guess the chair is going to take a little break. If there's anybody else who wants to testify, come on up. Yeah. Okay. And let's hope that we stay within what we're here about. Talking about the schools and your concerns with the schools, and even some ideas that you might have. Is very helpful. So we'll go ahead and start with you. If you can state your name for the record. Okay, go ahead. Oh, turn on your mic. Just lift it up forward in front of you. There's a. Yeah, it'll come up. Okay, there you go.
Hi, my name's Monica Fliss. I am a teacher at Simon Sanchez High School. I've been a teacher there for 14 years. So let me start off with some thank yous. Let me first start off by thanking the JFK school community for adopting us. That man right there, Mr. Watley, he's my counterpart. He's awesome. Thank you guys for showing up today and testifying as well. Let me thank our admin, our school admin, Ms. Mesnayan, Dr. Kanos. They work so hard for our school's community, and they deserve all the respect. Then I want to thank my students. That brave girl over there, Summer, she's my student. I saw her. I was on YouTube watching. I saw her. I had to come because my student was presenting. And so I'm here presenting now. One thing that maybe we need to emphasize again is the effect on academics that COVID and now, this double session we had. Our current freshmen were actually double session starting last school year at FBLG. And we see it as freshman teachers. They do struggle. They are learning, but they struggle. And our classes are short. We are doing our best. But yeah, we do need to solve this situation for the future of our island and to improve their prospects. One thing Dr. Kanos said, to quote Dr. Kanos, shine doesn't replace soul. And yes, this does affect our school community's cohesion. So we have a shared board that both Sanchez and FB students Sanchez and JFK students write on. And one question they wrote one day to my freshmen who have never walked on the Sanchez campus: what's your school like? They don't know. They've never been there. And I'm asking one of my classes to do a rebuild Sanchez mural, but they don't know what Sanchez was like. They weren't there. So we see fights, we see, just a struggle with clubs that's been talked about a lot, but school cohesion is important. But we are making it happen. One thing we did this last month or starting a couple of months ago, is as a school community, we raised presents for each and every elementary school student here in Jigo. And so Sanchez is there. Sanchez is still there. We are still all heart, all shark, and we are asking you to make sure something happens. This article that came out just now, let me read the last sentence. The last sentence says, GovGuam has been authorized to finance the design and construction of a new Simon Sanchez High School high campus since 2013. And they've been talking about building a new one even since before that, right? What's the problem? How are we going to solve our procurement issues and so forth to make sure that this happens, right? Let me go back to something else here. Oh, okay, so in the end, you are our leaders, and it is incumbent upon you to find the funding for our schools, to figure out with the federal government that we are reimbursed properly for laws that we have no say in, that we are heard by the federal government, It is also up to you to guide our economy and diversify it so that we make more tax money and so forth. So, you know, we're asking you as leaders to think about that. Okay, I'll pause there. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pauline Mateo. I am a current freshman English teacher here at Simon Sanchez. I've been at Simon Sanchez for the better part of a decade, but I was also an alumnus of John F. Kennedy when it was being rebuilt. My class, along with Mr. Andres, is the reason why we pretty much focused on a rebuild. While we have tried such efforts at Sanchez, it's very hard to get our students involved when all they've ever heard is everything falling on deaf ears. The teachers can only do so much. We tell our students their voice has a lot more power than they think it does. We heard from the 3 students that were up here, one from Sanchez, one from JFK, or 2 from JFK, and their voices are applauded. Their voices are needed. But it is very difficult, even in an English classroom, to just get students to answer anything. Sometimes to even just put their name on a paper. So what more if we are trying to encourage them and constantly encouraging them to do something productive, to do something where they're going to benefit when no one is going to listen. Like you guys have said and like other people have said, time and time again, people come to Sanchez or come to any high school and try to get people to vote for them. Try to get the 18-year-olds who are going to be out of our sight and out of the system into to vote for them, to vote for things that they may not have known about, may not be fully educated about. But it's very difficult to do those things when we are, again, falling on deaf ears. Okay, as a person who has been in that situation, who has to deal with double session, I remember coming home from GW after practice on a daily basis at 9 p.m. I would have to be at the bus stop before 11, get picked up from Dedito, drive a ride in the bus with a bunch of students all the way to GW and wait outside the gate because we were not allowed on the campus at the same time. While we were doing that, I saw also our struggles as a student body trying to raise money while trying to focus on a rebuild. And that is a struggle that is not only for our students, but also for the faculty. Now, with the faculty, there's so much talent within ourselves, within our students, and everything is being overshadowed. Right now, with our current championships this school year, our students are doing it on purpose. Our students are fighting to show you that it doesn't take not having a home to be someone or to do something. And we tell our students that it's not the school that makes the home, it's the people. And we feel that we have that as a community, but our morale as a school is not as great as it once was. Not to jump on the bandwagon of how things were before, but that's the things that a lot of our students or alumni at Sanchez can recall. All of the activities that brought morale to the school. And because of our time frame, because of our location and our limitations, we can't do that. We can't have as much pep rallies as we would like to help build the morale. We just had one, and our students can't stop talking about it. They can't stop talking about how they came together as a class to represent them, to show their talent. And that's just something that as time progresses, it's going to dwindle to a point where all we're gonna see is what we've been seeing in the media, which is negativity. The fights which are being capitalized on, the lack of wherever, and that's just what everybody else has said. We have a lack of outlets to let our students express their creativity, express their talent, because who wants to do that after being in a bus for more than an hour and then going to school to be there when most people are at the part of the day where they're crashing and then going home in the 5 o'clock traffic with 5 o'clock traffic to GCO and having to either get up early to do practice, stay after, or go somewhere else to go to practice, and then that just really affects us in class. The other thing that as a student and as a teacher that I've noticed with double session is that we are losing our academic part. Our athletes are getting pulled out for practices, for games. And yes, it is a pride to represent the school, but at what point? I have students that this semester and last semester I'm not gonna see because game days fall on my class day. And it's very difficult if they tell me, Miss, I ride the bus, my bus gets here right before first block. I can't come in for lunch, I can't do this. Miss, I don't have internet at home, and that is the reality of a lot of the Simon Sanchez students. We don't have the funding to give them what they need, or they're in a very remote area where access to the internet and access to their classes and resources are a lot more difficult than it needs to be. In my group, or in my level, which is the English 9, we struggle with resources, we share. And it's very difficult to try to plan a lesson if all of us need laptops that day. Because when else is my kid going to have a laptop? When else is my kid gonna have adequate internet at home to do the assignment that's prescribed to them today? So while I don't, as a teacher, I'm really just, whatever you're gonna tell me, give me a classroom and I'll teach with whatever I have, which is what we've been doing at Simon Sanchez for, I don't know, ever since I got there. We just work with what we have, and that's one of the talents of our teachers. But to what point are we going to ask, when is enough enough? When are we going to have the sufficient supplies, time, location to do what we all wanted to do in the beginning, which was teach our students? Raise our students to be better individuals so that we know the future is a lot better than what we have right now. And I'm going to hand over the mic to Dr. Caucus.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Caucus?
Good evening, I'm Ron Caucus. For 26 years, I've been a teacher at Simon Sanchez High School, and yet this seat still feels very unfamiliar. But I wanted to, first of all, again, thank you to the JFK community for welcoming us, for providing just kind of welcome us with compassion, empathy, understanding what double sessions are like. And that's through the leadership of their administration as well. I don't have too much to talk about other than if you went to school before the year 2000, you probably understood very well what a school experience should have been like, right? I mean, if you went to school before things got kind of strange around 2010, you understood, the benefit of like going to proms and making posters and everything that the young ladies talked about that was part of being in school. There were lessons in school that had nothing to do with content. And content is still everything in schools. And there's nothing wrong with that. But one of the things that I think we need to really think about is to stop viewing schools as like office buildings. Schools are more than that. In fact, every school's slogan starts with the word home. Home of the Sharks, home of the Islanders, home of the Bulldogs, home of the Hawks, right? We start that with home because we put a lot of trust in dropping our kids in these places and saying, I'm gonna put my hands up and away, and I'm gonna trust the people in these buildings to take care of them, to educate them, to care for them, to provide them with support, to provide them with opportunity, and to provide them with advocacy for whatever it is that they feel they want is important in their life. So one of the things we sacrifice when we say that schools are not important, that communities can do well without schools, one of the things that we sacrifice when we say that, just put them online, is all the experiences that go beyond content. All the things that we look for in our community, all the reasons why we say education is important so that we have citizens who can make informed decisions when they vote, becomes very important, and why we need schools in our community. Why a school in the middle of a village is considered a hub that connects not just the past, but also touches the future. This is why we need schools. We need schools because it teaches academic grit, it teaches life skills, it teaches you how to get through challenges and to endure. So I'm pretty sure that there are smarter guys in a room somewhere who's coming up with all the solutions and all the all the rules to the game as to why we can't just solve this problem. There's one easy problem. There's one easy solution. It's always been the same solution for the last 10, 15 years. Build us a new school. That's it. Get us a new school, and everybody that you trust with education inside that school will figure it out. And I understand. I understand there's procurement issues. I understand there's all of that. But when you throw out a great stat like that says we got $1 billion coming in, sounds like the solution's pretty easy. Build us a school, right? And that'll solve the JFK issue. That'll solve the FB issue. Because, hey, we'll double session with FB if you get us a new school. We'll double session with ourselves. We spent the last 10 years making the case that if we lower down classroom capacity, that we would have better learning, teachers would teach better, students would learn better, and now we have decisions to consolidate schools. It seems pretty counterproductive to me. But what do I know? I've only taught 26 years. So I think there's some great opportunity to do good. I think this is the time to do good. There's a great wall in our school that has handprints of senators who made a promise, and I don't see many of those hands anymore. So at some point in the first 5 years, it was a symbol of hope, and in the last 5 years, it turned into just kind of broken promises. So we'd like to see some forward progress, and I thank you again, senators, for joining us and listening to us, and thank you everybody for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Doc. Senator Brown? No. Okay, let me go down the list here. Barbara Damos? Almost, no. Monica Fils? Okay, thank you. Nelly Pasquale? Mr. Estefan? Robert Francis Lizama? Patel family?
Good evening, Senators Barnett, Tydekwe, and Brown. My name is Francis Lizama. I'm a resident of Jigo, although I'm not an alumni of Sanchez. My husband is the first graduating class of Simon Sanchez. My 5 children are alumni. I have a grand who is currently attending FB, who is also doing double session at Okuru. Next year, she will be a student of Simon Sanchez. It's heartbreaking. I heard one of the individuals mention 2013. We're already 2024. That's 11 years. And it's sad to know that my grand, who will be entering Simon Sanchez come next school year, may not see the new Simon Sanchez built. I pray to God that she does. Thank you to Summer, who is just starting her high school there. Thank you to the teachers of Simon Sanchez. They're doing everything they can. Thank you to JFK for accommodating and welcoming Simon Sanchez. Likewise to Okuru. But one thing I'm going to throw out, maybe you might take this and run with it. It's an idea I'm going to throw out there. Every election, education is a priority. Every election, you hear it. I'm so over it already. Simon Sanchez has been in the condition that it is for how many years? What about thinking outside the box? We have Chamorro Land Trust property on Route 15. We're talking about building a temporary school. What about utilizing the property where the raceway sits? I'm sure that's a big enough property for Simon Sanchez and FB. How much are we going to invest in our kids? We as parents, we go out of our way to provide the best for our kids. We go out of our way to get what they need. What about this government? What are they willing to invest in our kids? Every election, education is a priority. But apparently, it seems to be falling into the cracks. We need to do something. And Chamorro Trust property, if we can build something temporary like Mount Santa Rosa next to UPI, what about Simon Sanchez and FB? I'm sure that the property on Route 15 is big enough to accommodate. We can spend money on certain things out there. Well, what about the schools? What about the schools? Okay, I feel bad that my granddaughter comes home, she's walking home, gets home by 6:30, quarter till 7. Middle school. So, all I'm asking is let's put politics aside. Let's again put our children first. We always say our children are the future. They're the future. So give them something to look forward to. My granddaughter may never see Simon Sanchez. Given 2013, 11 years now, what more to build the school with all the obstacles, procurement violations, you name it. I've heard it. All the parents want and all the students want is to be in Jigo at Simon Sanchez High School. That's all they want. That's what I want for my grands. Okay? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lozama. Mrs. Patel?
Thank you. I want to say, in listening early on, to listening to all the challenges that our schools and the dynamics, it's monumental. And, listening to the testimonies here with the teachers, the good teachers that have come, and the principals, it's so heart-wrenching to hear that this has been, I was very privileged and happy that I went to Catholic school. I taught in Dea school, and nowhere near the great monumental challenges that faces this island and the students. My heart, I was trying to hold back the tears in that chair, listening to these parents and the teachers plead and implore. I look at the three of you up there, Senator Barnett, Senator Tello, and Senator Joanne Brown. I am honored to be in your presence. I think the three of you, I tell you, are spitfires in this legislature. I hear the assertiveness and the fights and just that, God has blessed you with this to be here, to fight tooth and nail for the children, for the adolescents. Please, I beg of you, for the children. You've got children, they're in school. I remember you, Miss Tello. You come from a good family. Your dad is a very good man. We used to pray together at the Tengisan. And Joanne, I remember you. You've always been so no fear. All of you, no fear. Stay the course. I'm here under different, because I received the flyer last night. And this flyer says DOE and public safety. I'm not here to expound in very details. As a lot of you maybe remember, me and my husband, we have been victims of police brutality at Derrido Precinct. I'm a 66-year-old Grandma, and they call me Nana. We and my husband are humanitarian people. I'm not here to sit and boast, but when I say humanitarian, every day we go down to Dedido and we feed the homeless. This is what we do, and we love what we do. Why? I have been down that road to know what homeless is, to know what hungry is. Let me tell you a little story about myself before I try to expound, not so much in details, on the merits of what happened to me and my husband. I'm a victim many years ago of brutal violence from an ex-husband who was a police officer. And when I say brutal, extensively. And through the course of that, my children were small. And I was one of those Chamorro girls, you know, that was raised very traditionally. And they say, carry your cross. I tried to keep the family together, but the abuse was horrific. And then I ended up, I couldn't muster the courage to get out of that. But I fell on my knees and I reached to the sky and I asked God, give me the courage to get out, because it was horrendous and horrific. I did, and I came back home and I raised my children on my own. I had to put me together. And in the interim, what I did was I had to give back. I reached out to women who were victims, and they'll look at me and say, wow, you don't have the MO, or you don't look abused coming from that. But I made a promise to myself coming back here that I would never let any man touch me or beat me the way he did profusely. And I continued to give out into the community. I partake in support groups, and I reached out to a lot of women. In the interim, even as I was trying to put me together, there was that desire inside me to help others. And I've been that way ever since. But when this incident happened to me at the police station, and my husband was there and was able to hear and witness. I've been married to my husband for 20 years, and I've never heard him cry. He is a combat veteran. And he had to hold back the tears. I asked God, after that happened to me, why did this happen to me? Why, Lord, why? I went to Father Paul, and I asked Father Paul, Father, why did this happen to me? I'm 66 years old. Why did I get in this situation with what the policeman did to me? Pushed the table up against me, and I fell, went down on the floor, hit my head on the floor, went into seizure, gurgling when I coming to consciousness, and he stood near me. The door was shut, and he just stared at me. And in my own mind, reliving my past, he's a policeman. He just did this to me. He just pushed me off my chair down on the ground. And then what had happened after that, the supervisor came in and the other officers. And as I came to consciousness, I asked for oxygen. I went into a seizure. And I could hear the mumbling going on the side door. And I could hear my husband telling them my wife is having a seizure, she needs help. I laid on that floor for 30 minutes. I could not believe. And I pleaded and begged for oxygen and for help and to get the ambulance or medics in there. And when they finally came, it was the medics that sat me up and gave me the oxygen and asked how I was doing, you know. And I said, they asked me while I was on oxygen, how am I doing? I held on to that oxygen in my nose for quite some time. They were still deliberating of whether to get me out to the hospital. My son came. They finally put me on the gurney and took me out. And my husband's door, where he was being placed in the holding cell, he could see and he could hear, and my son was there. My son, who's a father and a family man. And as they put me on that gurney and they were taking me out of there, one of the officers verbatim, what did he say? Because I cannot even bring myself to.
Yeah, my name is Johnny Patel. It's kind of hard for me to react and memorize everything. This is very hard for me. Okay. This is not easy. What I went through, what she went through. It's very, very hard for me to speak up here to you guys and let you know what's happening. And what she said and what I heard from that police officer, excuse my language, who the is she? I'm sorry.
And then as I was being wheeled out, Senator Tello, he says something to the verbatim of, you, you.
Please, I'm sorry, Mrs. Patel.
I'm sorry, but
I know.
Yeah,
Just,
I'm sorry.
There's
I'm
kids
sorry.
watching.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
And if I may, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. We're here for Simon Sanchez. I'm really, no, but this, yeah. And it's important that we stay within. I introduced a bill that, by the way, was
Yes.
just signed into law because of your situation that happened.
And I thank you for that,
And
Senator.
because I've heard what happened, and the bill is passed, it's gone through, so now every precinct that has to deal with interviews will have cameras
Yes.
to see it. So, I'm very sorry for what happened to you, but, I think if we could just keep moving along, because there's other people who want to testify. Thank you.
I'm here because when I looked at the flyers, Senator Tello, I agree, with all due respect, I saw DOE and public safety. I'm here not to just cover the intricacies and the details of this. I'm here to be a voice. I want to be a voice for all those other people who have approached me, who have come to me with their stories and testimony. I am going to say this. There's a lot of phenomenal police officers. I have a brother here, two brothers who I'm caregiver to. One I'm a guardian to. There's a lot of fantastic police officers dedicated. And I'm here to acknowledge all those good police officers. I'm not here with an ulterior motive or an agenda in that regard. I want to thank you, Senator, for introducing that bill. And it passed, praise the Lord. Because during the course of this, I was in fact recording some of the things that were happening. So this is our testimony and our experience. I am humbling myself to you, Senator Barnett, Senator Tello, and Senator Brown, that what you have done in passing this bill is beyond phenomenal, because it has accountability and it does protect them as well as the citizens who potentially could have the probability and the possibility of being in harm's way. This police officer, let me just elaborate on this and I will, in closing. This police officer, we found out through a source with GPD that he had been arrested for family violence. And when he was arrested for family violence, he had a plea agreement, and then he went back to GPD, And they just put him right back out to where he left off. So he was a liability because two people, and I will share, there are two people that has come forward, and I'll tell you one, and he said, you have my permission to put my name out there. Dr. Berg, I go, lucky if I'm able to walk because my back goes out on me, so I've been going in for my treatment on the injuries on my back. Now, Dr. Burke has been one of those victims of police threats, not physical, according to what he shared with me when I've been going in for treatment, so he confided in me. Father Paul's aunt, he stated that his aunt was berated and pulled over. Another individual I know at the commissary, Mr. Charlie, his friend was brutally beaten in 2015. So we cannot be complacent, and we cannot pretend this doesn't exist with a few select. But I will tell you this, my brother, Ricardo, please stand up. Those are the two brothers that I'm caregiver to. I'm a hospice nurse by profession. I've also taught school. I've been caseworker with the Catholic Social Services. I've served in many capacities through my lifetime, my journey in life. And when my brother, I'll give you a little example. My brother turned up missing 2 times. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of good police officers at that Dedido precinct. I will name them. What's the officer? Lorenzo. And Officer Young, and a lot of good officers there. It just so happened that this incident that happened to me and my husband happened. And those are the facts. I want to be a voice for those who have suffered and have cowered in silence over the years and not brave enough. I'm brave enough to stand up. I'm not going away with this. I plan to still, come out loud and clear to the people out there, and if there are few select officers that are out there doing this and think that they can get away with it, hurting few people, the few bad apples, if you will, what I'd like to see happen, Senator Barnett, because this is your committee, sir, what I'd like to see happen in this, to the extent of what we went through, and we all know there was a Taitanu also case, there was a case there, and the other recent cases in the last few months. I want good to come out of what happened to me and my husband, because there is an internal affairs, justifiably so, for a purpose. Well, what about for alleged allegations of such police brutality? Where do they go? The police are policing themselves, They investigate themselves. Think about that, ponder on that. I want to be the voice for those that have never stepped forward. I asked God, I prayed, and I said, Lord, why? Why did you pick me? I'm a nana, I'm a 60s, and we just simple elderly folks just being good in the community and doing what we can. Why? There is purpose. And all of this, I'm a believer that the higher power, it happened for a reason. I want good to come out of this. I'm hoping to see that you will, in your heart, be objective. You've been nothing but a phenomenal reporter for so many years. You got the tools. Now you've got another cap to put on, and which you're wearing now as a senator. And I think you're just the spitfire that we need. And Miss Senator Tello, I like you a lot. I know. And I hope and pray that in the direction as I share it with you, I hope to see all of you in the high seat somewhere. Maybe you become governor one day, and you be riding piggyback as a LT. This is what I want to see, because you know what? You got the gumption, you're fearless, and you love your people. I see this in all three of you. It's been a long time that I've been in the political arena. I worked for Senator Angel Santos for 2 terms, and I was very close to him. And I've never seen, in a long time, since Senator up to now, you are in the forefront in my heart, in my eyes. You got what it takes. Stay the course for your people, for those that are suffering, for those that suffer in silence with all of what your challenges face. I am here because I got the flyer that is going to be a DOE plus GPD safety, public safety. So this is within the perimeters. I think so.
You're right, Mrs. Patel. The Community Caucus is for anything under my committee, education, public safety, and the arts. But if you're going to try and talk about something that's not under those 3, we're not going to chase you.
May I, in closing, may I extend an apology because I got ahead of myself with some of the descriptive profanity. Please forgive me in that. And that was inappropriate on my part. But that were the dynamics and the events that in fact happened. My back goes out on me sometimes, and I know you mentioned there's an oversight. I might not make it. I'm just elated that I'm here looking at the 3 of you in your eyes, and you get to hear me. Please forgive me for that inappropriate language.
Thank you, Mrs. Patel. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you. Just to kind of expand on what Senator Teitigui had said is we actually introduced and passed a couple bills that are relative to what I believe are increasing accountability and transparency with law enforcement, specifically the Guam Police Department. I introduced a bill that is going to mandate the usage of body-worn cameras. That bill was subsequently signed into law by the governor. And so, of course, I hear you, and if you're following the news, which I'm sure you are, there have been many news stories, too many for my taste, about complaints that have been filed against officers or, complaints relative to officer misconduct. So I am having my oversight hearing, and I'm just going to go ahead and run through the agenda just real quick. I don't think we have the date yet. There's a conflict with the chief of police, but we're looking at the anytime past the 9th of February. And so on the agenda will be complaints against officers, 2023, 2024, the number of complaints, the complaints received versus investigations closed, the procedure for complaints, the protocol for officer arrests, use of force, training, areas of improvement. I'll also be covering, I've been hearing some grumblings about promotions, so status of the promotions, status of psychological services, DNA crime lab status, radio system update, recruitment and retention. And those are the topics on the agenda. So I've spoke with the chief. I intend to ask a lot of questions on subjects that you brought up in your testimony, and the chief is committed that the hearing is going to be as transparent as possible. And so, yeah, I think when you talk about the bad mangoes spoiling the bunch, right? I think that the many good men and women who wear the blue and who sport the badge of Guam's premier law enforcement agency, they want to see the bad mangoes rooted out, right? And so, again, thank you for your testimony.
Bless you. Thank you.
Agalo Kui. Senator Teitigui, Senator Brown? Is there anyone else who would like to provide testimony? Mr. Amaguin? Anyone else? This will be our last panel. Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Test. Can you hear me?
Go ahead and proceed, sir.
Half day, good evening. My name is Stephen Amagan. I'm actually from Dededo, but I'm an alumnus of Simon Sanchez High School. I just want to thank you, Senator Barnett, Senator Taitagui, and Senator Joanne Brown for being our check and balances in that floor. I watch the session every day. Not all the time that I'm interested in some of bills. I just want to say that your bill 185 took off the blinders. For me, 185 was a winner. Took off the blinders in the smoke screen on what really was going on today, the pressing issues, which is our school children, education, the schools, right, and getting our children out of double sessions. The teachers already have conveyed their concerns, and also it will give us, the government, more time to actually fix, maintain, get GMH accredited, and assess the financial situation of government of Guam. If we can really afford to fund the, they call that,
21st century.
yeah, the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center of Excellence Act of 2021. That bill, the law actually, if I understand, is okay, but costs about, it's gonna go for RFP, right? And it's gonna see who's gonna get the highest bid, who's the best company that can actually fund the hospital. So pretty much I'm asking my friend, say, Pari, can you get a loan for me? And I'll pay you on a monthly basis. That's what's gonna happen. The portion of the law also states that if the government of Guam will be able to float some bonds to curtail the cost for the financing of the contractor. So whoever the contractor is going to be, it's the same issue that they have. They're going to have control of the new hospital. Same thing with the schools, right? We cannot do anything. Same thing happened with the schools when my daughter was going to Okuru High School. My wife dedicated her time, 4 years, being a PTSA member of president, vice president, and the PTSA cannot install anything on that school without the permission of the person that we owe the money to. So the same thing happened. What happened after the typhoon? They said that they're gonna have to get with the owner to fix whatever issue that they may have after the typhoon. But other than that, I just want to say thank you for what you guys are doing. It's time to focus now, since the blinders, right, and the smoke screens are gone. Concentrate more on our students, which is the future of our island, and also to make sure that after the assessment of actually how much are we going to put the burden on our children and our future for $35 million a year annually, right, for 40 years. And a portion of the law states that it can also be extended for another 10 years. So you're looking at about 50 years of a burden that we're going to put on the children that testified here. I'm not going to last that long. So I'm more, as I always mentioned, the last time I testified, I have a special interest. My special interest is the people of Guam and our children, our future. So that is my special interest. So also, since we are here, I know Simon Sanchez is going to take a while. I'm not sure who won the bid and the RFP, because I know government of Guam is not going to be able to fund the project, right? Same thing with the Healthcare Center for Excellence. We're not going to be able to fund it. We're going to have to ask our party, or we're going to ask somebody, right, through the RFP to actually get the amount, or say whoever wins that. And also the last portion of the law states that there's going to be like a financial study that has to be done before any RFP is done. So I'm not sure that has been done, because we're already moving to the progress. Was that done? The portion of the law, Title 12, Chapter 83, the last portion of the law states that it says financial plan requirement. GIDA shall prepare a financial plan in accordance with the following, right? The financial plan shall be submitted to the Magahaga, the governor of Guam, and transmitted to the Speaker of the Guam Legislature. No solicitation of request for proposal or invitation for bid authorized to effectuate the requirements of this act may be issued right? Until the financial plan is delivered to the Speaker of the Guam Legislature. So I'm quite sure that was done. That's why we're in this process, right? I hope so. Your bill actually is the only one that identified the Healthcare Center Act of 2021. Medical center, I believe, is not identified in that law. So I suggest, as I mentioned to you, Senator Barnett, sir, probably we can reintroduce that bill, but incorporate it into Title 12, Chapter 83 as an amendment to add a section on that law so that it will be incorporated into the law so that you don't have to worry about financing because the process is already there. The steps are already given in the law. So, we don't have to reinvent the wheel by just piecemeal legislation, introduce identifying the land. So if you amend that law, Public Law 36056, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's codified in that title that I mentioned. I think there will be an easier process. At least people will understand that the bill that you're introducing, it will help identify the land, and the land that it's a common sense legislation which you introduced that will cost our government, our taxpayers, me, less money, and our children for 40 to 50 years down the line. But before that, take care of our children first because they are our future. Okay, if you cannot take care of our future right now, I don't think they'll be able to pay the 50-year loan, 50-year lease back option from whoever the company is going to win that bid. I support all you guys, and I just want to let the people know that there's one person that ran before. It says that difference begins with us. They're pointing at us, right? At that time, I was still a public servant. So now I can see that the public is trying to make a difference by speaking up. And we have to just listen. And also the public has to start watching the YouTube channel because you three and other about probably 4, 5, Senator Luan, Senator Blas, Senator Sabina Perez, right? There are the people, the senators are actually trying to make more sense, thinking more about the people. So this election year, all we have to do is think, people. This is the time to actually elect leaders that are able to think on their own and not be persuaded by any other outside force. Leaders that are decisive, like these three here, are able to actually be concerned about how are we be able to live the next day, right, Senator Brown? How are we going to be able to provide, be able to justify all our expenses now, tomorrow, or the next year after, which is I admire about all you guys. You are the check and balances in the Guam legislature, and we need more of you guys. I used to be a registered Democrat, but when they put out something in the primary election last election that they're gonna have a close election, that deprived my wife, which is sitting behind me, because she's a Republican, been voting Democrats because of me. So I actually removed myself from that. I did not declare my party affiliation, just due to the mere fact, because that was pretty much I can say it was a slap on the face on my wife, because she's been supporting me, whoever I support. So, and I know public safety is one of them. I want to take this opportunity to actually bring up a concern that I have. Guam Police Department used to have an attorney. It was repealed. This is the only department that I think is going to need a lawyer. If GMH can have one and trying to hire two, I'm quite sure the people of Guam will see an attorney sitting behind the chief of police or sitting along with the chief of police making that type of decision in any matter, legal aspect of the law, that he can help them decide on how the departments can be run. Because right now, it's just a lieutenant, and then we have to depend on the Attorney General's office. And we go back to the past. Hire an attorney, and also, other agencies has deputy directors, right? We used to have a deputy chief. They deleted that, they repealed the law. So, deputy chief, I believe, is also needed. And the most important thing, for the sake of my colleagues, is a staff psychologist on hand. We have 2 Something happens. Sometimes if between September and October, it's between fiscal year, right? So the PO is not around the corner. Sometimes it takes a while for officers to be given that opportunity to see somebody. They'll be able to help them whatever traumatic incidents that they were involved in. So I'm asking, because I'm retired, but I experienced it. I've seen it. If you guys can help our police officers to actually at least have an attorney, have a staff psychologist, and I'm not going to ask the headquarters. That was a law that was passed in 2005 under Title 5, Guam Code Annotated Title 5, Chapter 59. Okay, the Public Safety Initiative Facility Act of 2005. 2005, that's almost what? 19 years ago? So, ours is our department's only been crying for a headquarters. I mean, I've been testifying every time, and all I ask, and I know it just keeps falling on deaf ears, headquarters. But, we'll take care of our children first. We'll take care about our children first, and then probably hand in hand with the Guam Memorial Hospital, get that hospital fixed. Because you said, what, public health only costs $600 to fix that. 600 for the door. Okay, so I'm an electrician by trade, but for 18 years. I'm quite sure that something could have done that would prevent that place to be abandoned. And also Guam Behavioral Health, that's something that needs to be amended in the law. Because the law says, right, the Guam Health Center of the one that I identified, include public health and Guam Behavioral Health. Watching the public hearing, Guam Behavioral Health is already going to expand where they're at. So there's no need to include them, right? Probably a 24 hours mental health facility. Yes, because the island needs that. We don't have the 24 hours of long-term mental health facility. That probably we may need that, but find out first if you can afford it. And public health, probably appropriate $1,000. We fix the $600 door. And for the public, I just want to let you guys know that there's a form of accountability with the Guam Police Department. There's a reporting requirements for the Guam Police Department that states under Guam Code Annotated Chapter 77, 133, reporting police officers' violations. Pretty much what this law entails that any person, right, may file a written complaint with any police officer of the Guam Police Department alleging the commission of a crime or misconduct as part of on the part of the police officer or employee of the department. So it also covers civilians. And the officer has 48 hours to inform the chief of police of that the alleged commission, crime or misconduct, but he has to come from a credible source, credible person on the street. And 48 hours, if a person fails to report that, I believe it's a violation of this statute, $1,000 fine or 1 year imprisonment. So that's something that I can reassure the public that there is a form of accountability. Okay, there's no more such thing as the code of silence and the police department, because I believe we are the only agency that has that law that actually have some form of accountability. And also, is that just the prompt also for internal affairs cases? They don't have to go to the chief's office to report it. That this law itself mandates anybody to report it to a police officer. And there's a thank you, sir. There's a internal affairs form that they can use and forward it to the chief's office for the internal affairs for their information. And investigation. Lastly, I know, again, I just pay respect to Senator Peter Terlai. And I say it's too late to say a moment of silence, but he's the senator that actually introduced the bill for the retirement, the new retirement that will allow our police officers to retire a little bit earlier. It's similar to the old plan, but not really as like the old plan, but it's like the old plan. And in anticipation of that, the Guam Police Department will probably see a lot of officers retiring because of the retirement. And there's a law in Guam Code annotated, Title 10, Chapter 77, regarding the hiring of the annual police officer trainee cycle. The law states 77-113.1, annual police training cycle. The Guam Police Department shall beginning in fiscal year 2017 conduct a police training cycle for no more than 40 candidates per fiscal year. So if you're going to do back-to-back within the fiscal year, we're only limited to 40. So if you can probably expound that, make it a little bit higher, probably 75, right? Because so right now we're running a 30 POT per cycle. So if you're going to do 3 cycles in that one fiscal year, we're still abiding with this law. I mean, English is my second language, but that's how I understand it. That the Guam Police Department is only limited to 40 police officers per fiscal year. This law was passed by, I believe, Senator Brant McCready, and it was amended by the Congressman James Moylan to actually be codified in this beverage.
Right.
But I think that I see a problem in that 77-113. So that's all I want to say. Guam Police Department is doing their best to serve this public, that serve this island. And yes, there's a lot of great officers, but there's some that will probably sometimes go on the wayside. But we have that form of accountability based on that law that I inform you guys. And if the public's not really satisfied, the police review committee, I believe, commission has to be reactivated. That one is right now, I think, is sleeping someplace. Something that, if you really want full accountability on the Guam Police Department, then Police Review Commission probably can be implemented. Because if you look at the law, it did mention the Police Review Commission. They can also file a complaint with the Police Review Commission. So you just have to a matter of looking at the law, Chapter 77, Title 10, and probably we can help our police department. Headquarters, probably later on down the line. And again, thank you all. And I just remind the public, it's election year. Elect leaders that has their own mind. Elect leaders that will decide not for somebody, but for the people of Guam. Elect leaders for the future of our children, not just for right now. That's why we always say not to now, but you have to think about tomorrow and the future. Again, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I thank my wife for supporting me, being at the back, and she's been very supportive of the educational system here in Guam. And education system in Guam, it takes parental involvement. Can I just pinpoint and just appointed the senators, the government, because as a parent, we have to get involved with our education. We did a lot of sacrifice during COVID-19. And I think, again, I'm going to say sacrifices that we have to make, but kudos to all the teachers. Every time we attend the parent-teacher conference, I always tell the teachers that thank you for being another parent for my children, because they spend more time with our kids when they were in double sessions. And support the teachers, and hopefully that you'll be able to build Simon Sanchez since 2013 of planning, and go back 2005, build Guam Police Department headquarters, give some form of dignity for our police officers, because right now they're all scattered all over the place. ITC, Hakubutan, you name it. I tried trying to get with Gura before, asked them to build as a headquarters. No, they can't. To the community block grant, they only can provide for the precincts, not the headquarters. And lastly, there's a portion of this law that also will help us. If you look at this law that says something about the headquarters in Title 77, that 77120, headquarters and police stations. With the approval of the governor, the chief of police may establish headquarters and police stations at such places as permanent by law, as may be advisable for the protection of the people. With the approval of the governor, the chief of police may use government lands. The chief of police may use government lands and buildings for the accommodation of police officers and their vehicles and equipment. So the plans are there. We just have to dust off the law and also help the Guam Police Department give them a home. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Especially for your advice to our people to vote for candidates, right, who have our people's interests at heart. That's why I asked you if you would consider running for office. But he said the commander said, so. But I see a lot of great people in here, right? Mrs. G, I'd like to see you run for office. Pedro, I'd like to see you run for office. You know, Miss Nayan. Let me know. I'll back you. But thank you, Mr. Amagon, for your very heartfelt testimony. And on the issue of the police cycles, Speaker Therese Terlahi in the last budget was able to proffer an amendment that passed that funded an extra cycle of recruits for the Guam Police Department. So we actually are going to have 2 cycles in this fiscal year. And then the body was also able to pass in the budget bill amendments that added additional cycles for Department of Corrections corrections officers, and also, I believe, an additional cycle for Guam Fire Department recruits. Did you guys want to talk? Senator Taitigui?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm really happy I came tonight. You know, got to hear a lot of people talk. You know, and seeing it's different watching. You know, those who speak on TV, and then actually you can just feel the passion when you're in front of them. And I really appreciate being here. And I took a lot of notes so that when you have the informational hearing or oversight hearing with DOE, I'll have my questions ready to go. So thank you, everyone, please, for listening in, those who are listening and those who stayed to the end of the night. I would like to talk to you guys at the end of the, okay.
Senator Brown?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and also to the members of our community that provided their testimony and input. I know there's a lot of issues and challenges, but I think having this open dialogue and hearing directly from our people, and our people also listening to our people and what they have to say is a very productive forum. So thank you, everybody. I got to go home and do homework. I hope I stay awake because my boy is, he has a couple of pages of homework due tomorrow morning. So hopefully I can accommodate that tonight. We'll both be awake. But hope you have a safe drive home. And thank you for coming and letting us know your thoughts and your concerns. It's most appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For
Thank you. I just want to thank my colleagues, Senator Brown and Senator Taitigui. If we could just give them a big round of applause. I mean, we had a full day of hearings at the legislature, and they don't exactly stay close to GIGO, so I thank you for coming out to support this community caucus. And I appreciate you. Thank you, GIGO, for having us. I think on the education side, top of my list is we have to end the double sessions and the cohorts. I think that should be the priority that I'm going to take back to the oversight hearing. So again, thank you to Mayor Anthony Sanchez for hosting us here at the GIGO Senior Center. This community caucus of the Committee on Education, Public Safety, and the Arts is hereby ended at 9:39 Chamorro Standard Time. Guasi Senador Chris Malafunction Barnett, si Dios Masi está. Adios.